Right. Hello. Yes, we are good. What is up, you guys? It's your boy Rob, Hollow Avarice, back again with some gaming goodness. Today, I am here to play some Genshin Impact, but before I do that, I wanted to have a chat about the state of Genshin and something that's been on my mind recently. So, without further ado, I'm Hollow Avarice, and I'm here to talk about Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact. I know the name of the game. I've been playing Genshin since the week after launch, so I've been pretty much day one. No, it was in the week of launch, in that first week. And I love this game. This game has become a huge part of my life. As sad as that sounds, I do it my dailies. The only time I stopped playing was during late Liyue, early Inazuma, and I've been streaming it since Sumeru. Every patch, every update. I once streamed. I think it was It was one of the Fontaine. I think it was the beginning of Fontaine or the middle of the end of Sumeru while I was in Amsterdam. I love this game. I want to talk about some facet of this game that's been mulling over my brain for the past few days. That I had a conversation with some of my chat, and I've been thinking about it. So I want to start us off with a timeline of Genshin Impact. The release. I didn't realize where my camera would be. I thought I accounted for it, but I guess I forgot for this slide. I'll just read it. Genshin Impact, released by MiHoYo, releases September 28th of 2020 on PC, iOS, Android, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 soon to follow. And then in 2024, Xbox would be added. That was the release. Success. Genshin passed 21 million pre-registrations and had 17 million downloads in the first week on just PC and mobile. Phenomenal. Building the future. Genshin released steady updates until July 21st of 2021, when they released the 2.0 patch with the Nation of Inazuma, showing players the scale and basic formula the game would be following going forward. And it has continued to this day, 6 years later, 5 years after this event. The downfall. On September 1st of 2021, during the 2.1 update of Genshin Impact, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn joins the game on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And you can already see where I'm going with this. Since that tragic event, a questionable pallor has hung in the air around Genshin Impact, leading me to question, could Genshin Impact ever do more collabs? I have my Aloy statue up there from Horizon Zero Dawn. I am a fan of Horizon Zero Dawn. I love Horizon Zero Dawn. I also liked Horizon Forbidden West. I didn't play the DLC for that one. I did for the first one. I enjoy the games. They've had horrible luck and have released at bad times. Both of those games have released around, stiff competition. Genshin collabed with Aloy, and it was considered by most a train wreck. The worst kit in the game. Just an overall rough debut for Genshin collabs. Since then, MiHoYo has gone on to do other collabs, but not through Genshin. Hey, bud. Welcome to the stream. How you doing? The question. With the improvements in other gacha games, including others in gachas, could Hoyo versus Genshin Impact have a successful collaboration? And if so, which would it be? Qualifier. I'm talking about in-game collabs. Characters, weapons events. No Duolingo, no KFC or McDonald's. And I'm not talking out my butt. I went to McDonald's. I have the, I got an extra apple pie box with Beto and Kazuha on it. I participated. But Genshin, I'm failing my 50-50s. You think I got money to spend on a Cadillac? Or a cool phone? Or a secret lab chair? I have a secret lab chair. I'm sitting in one. You get the point, Genshin. I don't want this. I want in-game, tangible benefits. A rant. This is going to sound insane. Children are repellent to certain colors of food and bitter taste on an instinctual level. There's a long-running cross-cultural trope that children don't like vegetables. Parents often force their kids to eat vegetables, the required food that benefits them. This is shown to create a negative association between growing to dislike something when it's forced upon you. Studies have shown, however, that giving satisfying rewards along with exposure to vegetables associates positive results, to the point where after 10 to 15 exposures, children don't even need the positive association anymore. And they accept something new. What does this have to do with Genshin? Aloy is the childhood spinach in our mouth. She is the bad taste. We have to get past this bitter taste in our mouths if we're to persevere for our own health and well-being and the betterment of Genshin Impact. The vision. To that end, I plan to I'm going to present to you 20 potential collaborations that could feasibly fit into the world of Teyvat and how they could be implemented in a satisfying manner. That's the important part. It's not a problem that people had with Aloy. It was a problem that some people had with Aloy. Neither here nor there. It was it done in a satisfying manner? Was the character good? Was the character true to the game they were from? And was the character fun to play in this game? Did it make sense in a way that satisfied the people in this game? Because this game is your target demographic. The disclaimer. Before I begin, I'm doing a fun thing here on this stream before I play the game. I do not want an overabundance of collabs in my game. No thank you. We have to avoid what I'm calling Fortnite-ification. That's what's going on in Magic the Gathering right now. And I know a thing or two about that. Those are Magic the Gathering cards of Marvel superheroes. That's Marvel Superhero Magic the Gathering. They've had collaborations across the board. A crazy number. And the fans there don't like it. It is, to some extent, drawing in a new crowd, but it's isolating longtime players. Crossovers make money, but isolate longtime players. This, what I'm doing here, a thought experiment. What could be fun? What could make sense? Right? That's all I'm trying to say. Alright, here we go. Number 20. Starting us out strong. Joker from Persona 5. You never saw it coming. Joker from Persona 5 makes sense for a starting collab. Seriously, my guy here is in Smash Brothers, Grand Blue, AFK Arena, Noir, a Near Reincarnation. Literally, as I was making this presentation the other day, he was announced he's going to be in Fortnite. Speaking of Fortnite. My Joker mask there. I even got the Persona games ready to go. I played Persona 5 twice. I love it so much. Okay. How would Joker work in Persona? Pyro Catalyst. Focus on fast dagger combos. Constant pyro application and a little bit of physical damage mixed in there. What would make him unique and special? An all-out attack. Joker's final attack in the Persona games is called All-Out Attack, where every party member attacks at once, in one big, beautiful cinematic finale. His would be akin to that. I imagine this playing a little bit like Chaska from Natlan does, where she charges up her skill. It's mostly Animo, but depending on your team composition, it can do 3 other elements, or two and one other elements in addition to her animo attack to cause swirl. I imagine, for example, he does 10 attacks. They're not like super strong, they're like standard attacks, but it does 7 attacks in rapid succession that are all pyro, then 3 more based on the other 3 members of your party. So if you have Ayaka, Mualani, and Kaching, it does 7 pyro, 1 cryo, 1 hydro, 1 electro. And it just causes this big explosion, and that's the all-out attack. Exactly, 4 different people. Oh, is it a raid? How you doing? A Phantom Thief Glider. Hey. What? Nice. A Phantom Thief. That Persona style, the sharp red, black, and white, would make for a great glider. But you have to incorporate it into the game as well. Do a domain based on stealing, do a domain based on, like, thieving. We don't really have a proper... Yeah. I'm trying to improve it, man. That's what I'm trying to think. A domain around stealing and thieving. There's no character like that in Genshin. We have mostly upright characters. New recipes. Every character in Genshin has a thing they're good at, a meal they're good at, with one exception. The Big Bang Burger or Sojiro's LeBlanc Curry. Big Bang Burger is kind of a meme in the community, and Sojiro's Curry, I think, is in canon Ren's, Joker's favorite meal. And finally, a Jack Frost companion. Look at him. We're in Snezhnaya right now. We have the village of Jack Frosts. I know Persona 5 kind of has Morgana as the mascot, but no. Overall, Jack Frost is kind of the mascot of Persona. Alright. Number 19. Hatsune Miku. I'm getting it out of the way. I'm putting it down at 19 because it had to be mentioned. Hatsune Miku. Make her an electro sword user with a music-themed skill and burst. Her traditional leak right here is her sword. Put her music in Myriad Memories. How cool would it be if you do this right to have Hoyo Mix, the studio that makes this incredible music that I listen to in my free time. I listen to when driving, I listen to when cleaning, whatever. Have them redub or remix and classicify Hatsune Miku, or other way around. Give the Vocaloid Miku team access to Genshin songs and have them do like a crazy Natlan collab. That'd be cool. And a Miku themed glider. Easy. It's crazy. Miku is already, I mentioned 2 things. Miku is already primed for collabs. She's in Magic the Gathering and she's in Fortnite. She's actually getting another Magic the Gathering collab later this year. And Faruzan is basically Miku. Number 18. This is where I actually started to care. Elden Ring. FromSoft does not often collab. I think if they were going to collab, Elden Ring would be the best bet. It is big, it is fresh. It is more accessible than the like of Dark Souls, than the like of Bloodborne. I love Bloodborne. This is more accessible. I think it would be a better hook. Now, Elden Ring doesn't really have a lot of characters that you can put here, because you don't want to put a boss, because that would feel nerfed. You don't want to put Melania Blade of Mikola in here, and she won't be able to do her full Riverfowl dance. You don't want to put Starscourge Radahn, or Melania Blade of Mikola, or Godfrey, Horalu Warrior, or Melania Blade of Mikola. They would feel nerfed. The only character I thought that could fit is Ronnie the Witch. It's a weird pick. Bear with me. I'd make her a Cryo Claymore user. Remember, this is not her body. She is a god, or a demigod. This is a vessel that she's trapped inside, Raiden Shogun style. We already have lore of a demigod inside of a puppet body. It works in the lore of Genshin. give her the Dark Moon Greatsword. The Moon Greatswords are kind of the most iconic weapon series in the Souls games. I'd have her be a slow, methodical character, more support-oriented, because that's Ranni's role. Do a large domain. How would you make it feel like Elden Ring? How would this collab be worth it? Do a large domain where enemies deal extra damage. Have them farther away and they're sniping you, and it's doing double damage every hit, including elite enemies, and it leads up to a boss. Most of the things I have in this entire list are collabs that are available with in-game materials, with the exception of characters. miHoYo would still have to obviously make characters, weapons, weapon skins, etc. I don't want them to have to make new enemies, new enemy types. That would always be cool, but that seems excessive. So I always try and limit that. So most of the things in this are story or character driven or weapon driven. And I'm not going to put enemies in the game. With one exception. We need a boss. And that boss needs to be someone memorable. That boss needs to be someone that's serious and cool and powerful, but also has that same Genshin charm and kind of Genshin humor. And that's Alexander. The goddamn living jar. And he's a badass. And on my second playthrough and my third playthrough of Elden Ring, because you know I beat it 3 times, minimum, and I've played others on different builds since then, I have gone out of my way to avoid killing Alexander whenever given the chance. I free him, I get him to his goal, then I stop. I will never fight him in Karamazul. Yeah. There's other things you could add. You could add weapon skins. Genshin has introduced the idea of weapon skins and has done next to nothing with it. They use it for events, which is neat. But come on. This is prime collab stuff. Give us a polearm for the Bolt of Grandsax, or a sword for the Sacred Relic, the weird twisting spine of the Elden Beast. That's awesome. Elden Ring. Do it. Do I have objects for everything on here? Maybe. Potential collaboration number 17. Nier Automata. I was talking with some chat yesterday about Nier Automata because we're playing Beast of Reincarnation, which I feel is trying to capture the essence of Nier Automata. I love Nier. Nier, I think, speaking of great music, has one of the best soundtracks of all time. Speaking of games I've played multiple times, I did multiple playthroughs of Nier, because the more you play through it, the more satisfying it is, and the more of the ending you get. I love Nier. And Nier is right here. You know it. So, what would I put in this game for Nier? Well, the character is kind of obvious. It's going to be 2B. Right? Obvious. She has that elegance and style that I think the Genshin team could do a lot with. She shows just enough side leg and cleave to be a marketable Genshin character. How would she play? I would make her an Electro Claymore user. That's an odd choice, you might ask. She's kind of known for her sword. Well, she has all the weapons. I'm focusing on the weapon on her back, in this case, but she would use multiple weapons in her burst animation. The main weapon she would use is the Type 4-0 large sword. That would be her signature weapon. But during her burst, she could switch to the gauntlets. She could switch to the short sword, the staff, anything like that. A companion, it's our pod, right? It's literally a tiny floating robot that hovers over your shoulder. That's all the Genshin companions are. I think the Genshin companions are crazy easy to do, and they don't do it enough. Those things are marketable and just easy to do. It's a little floating guy that doesn't even interact with your character. It floats there and does 1 or 2 animations on a loop every few minutes. A domain, finally. An area. We need an area. This I would base on tech. Obviously, with the setting of Nier, right? That post-apocalyptic techno vibe. Use Aino's technology and Fatui tech. The reason I say Aino, there was a secret boss in the game. I'm trying to remember. It's like a defunct theme park mascot. It's big, it's bulky. Reskin Aino's Knuckle Duckle. Put that in there, surrounded by Fatui robots. Put it all in a flaming, crappy, like, rubble-filled domain. You got Nier. You have a Nier crossover. What would I make the story? I don't know. But something cool, if you wanted to kind of, like, flesh this out, make it so you have to do the domain multiple times, and every time you can get a little further into the domain. Or every time there's a new bit of story lore for why 2B is in this world. Are we going to get to lore? You bet we are. You just got to give me a few more minutes. We got to go through a few more slides. We're moving on now. Number 16. And I spoiled it right there. Marvel. Now, whoa. Marvel? Disney? Disney ain't gonna collab. Disney will collab if you pay them. Disney will collab if there's money on the table. Disney's doing Kingdom Hearts. Disney's doing a lot right now. And there's rumors of a Kingdom Hearts show coming to Disney Plus. Disney will collab if there's money in it. And there's money in gacha. Now, there have been rumors. Well, that's what I'm talking about. I want them to do a proper collab. And I'm talking about how it can be done well. Right? These are some ideas for how it can be done well. Our only example is Aloy, and they kind of gave up after falling out the gate. They fumbled at the start line, and then they went home. They took their ball and went home. They didn't try again. Marvel. There have been rumors that Marvel's going to get into the gacha space and try and make a gacha or a Genshin style game. Hey, Genshin, gacha games collab all the time. Collab with Marvel. If they do a gacha style or a Genshin style game, give them one or two Genshin characters to heroify. Like, imagine a superhero Raiden Shogun. No. Superhero Movuika. Movuika is the most superhero of the Genshin characters. Or imagine a super villain Dottore. And Kinich. Kinich exists. You're right there. Kinich is basically Spider-Man. Yeah. Put Kinich and Spider-Man teaming up against Doc Ock and Dottore in your Marvel game. Bam. But what do I want in this game? Now, Marvel is tricky. Because I don't want to push the borders too hard. Aha would be a symbiote? Awesome. I actually like that. A little baby dragon symbiote. You could see from the characters I'm picking. Elden Ring. Miku's kind of like where the line is drawn. But Joker, Ronnie, Nier, it kind of has that sci-fi fantasy feel that wouldn't feel horribly out of place in Genshin. I mean, she's a sword user, she carries a sword on her back, she's traversing a lot of traveling. I feel like this fits. Who would fit Marvel? Captain America, I don't think would fit. Iron Man, I don't think would fit. Spider-Man, I don't think would fit. You could say they fit no matter what because they have their own multiverse and there's always variants. I also don't want to introduce too many new crazy mechanics. So I'm looking for a character that I think would fit. Candace is Captain America, she's got that shield. You know what, here, do a Captain America weapon skin for Candace and it alters her shield. There you go. What character would I think would be great as a collab? Thor Odinson. Thor gets left behind all the time in that conversation now. Because the big three used to be Cap, Iron Man, and Thor. Spider-Man was always his own pillar. Thor is great. Love me some Thor. Thor is great. I love me some Thor. I think Thor would work for several reasons in this game. So let me talk about first his kit. What I would do. He'd be an Electro Claymore user. His Claymore would be based on his Stormbreaker axe, or technically Beta Ray Bill's Stormbreaker hammer, but the MCU axe version. Kind of combining it with Unworthy Thor, you know. But what about our boy Mjolnir? Don't worry. His skill would be similar to either Wanderer's hammer, where he grabs it and it lifts him up for a minute, or it could be like a Varka jump, where he throws Mjolnir and leaps and then slams down. Lore accurate, he's for Inazuma? No. There's actually somewhere he fits better. Ready? First things, a Mjolnir theme burst, so a big lightning strike, and Mjolnir then begins to, after his burst, rotate around the active character, so then you can switch off Thor. So he's a main DPS, but he has a sub-DPS feature with his burst. His passive, decrease stamina use for party by 50%. I'm going to start getting into passives, too, because I think it makes for something more fun. And you're like, 50% stamina decrease is kind of crazy. I want there to be an incentive to use these characters. There's no incentive to use Aloy. It gets better. Why this, though? Thor's whole thing, and they only kind of touch on it in 1 or 2 Marvel movies, Thor is the one that makes people happy. Thor is the one who inspires and lifts the spirits of the... There's a reason he is sung of in the halls of Asgard, and it's not just for his might and conquests. It's because the Warriors 3, Lady Sif, the villains, like the Enchanters, they love having him around. Why not give him a sub-DPS Lunar Electro Charge feature? Absolutely you can. That's not a bad idea, doing a Lunar Charge or a Lunar Electro with him. He would have a long-form quest. His quest, to get the 6 Norn Stones that are scattered around Teyvat. You have him land in the middle of a field, big flash of rainbow, that's the mark of the event, and now there are 6 mini domains. They're guarded by frost giants, the frozen Laura turtles, and the lava dragon in Natlan. They represent the different kind of threats that he faces in the comics in the 9 realms. And those Norn Stones that he collects on this quest are his constellations that you would use to power him up. One of those constellations could easily be making him applicable for Lunar Charge. Finally, you said he'd fit well in Inazuma. There's one place more that I think he would fit perfectly. Khaenri'ah. Khaenri'ah is based on Norse mythology. The Capitano is Thrain, whose weapon was Mistelten, which is mentioned in Snezhnaya. Why not have a quest in Natlan and have Surtur come out? That could be a one-off, have a giant fire giant, that could be part of the Norn Stone in Natlan. Easy. But Thor in Khaenri'ah. It's perfect. Hell, because there's so many characters that have Norse names. Reindotir, all those Surturlogi. Surturlogi is basically Surtur, by the way. But the big ones are Hruptatir the Wise and King Ermin. Hruptatir means sage, and is one of the identities used by King Odin. Ermin is Odin. He's the one-eyed king who sought wisdom from the great tree. There are 2 versions of Thor's father in Genshin already. It makes so much sense. But in case this isn't doing it for you, I have another one. That's right. Marvel 16.1. You don't like Thor? That's fine. We want to tone it down a little bit. One of my, I think, the most underappreciated heroes in the Avengers. Jeremy Renner himself is awesome, but it's Hawkeye. So we have a god-level character like Thor. What about a human-level character? What about someone more introspective and interesting and ground-level, street-level? That's kind of why I love Hawkeye, because he's just a guy that has to put up with all this. I love Clint Barton. Make him an Anemo bow user. a little basic, but I think we can work with it. Give him, when he gets grouped up, give him his access to his Ronin sword that has knockback, and he does a multi-shot tracking skill. So every enemy that gets hit by the knockback gets an arrow tracked to them. An arrow rain a la Amber, or if you want to do something like the pin particle giant arrow slams down, almost like a friggin' nail from Celestia, that could be awesome. There's so much you could do with him. His passive, same as Linnea's. You're gonna say this is basic? I am talking Child's gameplay, but more arrow focused and less of that the crit balancing BS. So way more arrows and tracking arrows in this would be my idea. He would have Linnea's quick charge, so he very rapidly charges his full power arrows, which would have some kind of armor shredding or piercing. And finally, his quest, target shooting quest, hunting down criminals with Chevreuse. Imagine Hawkeye and Chevreuse stalking through the sewers, the Fleuve Cendre of Fontaine, hunting treasure hoarders or a gang. The whatever that fruit gang was. That's some supervillain stuff. I'm saying, that would work. Hawkeye Yalan, that would work super well too. Half the time Hawkeye is not an adventurer, half the time he's a spy. So you have two archer spies maybe competing to get information. You can absolutely do this. Or if you have Hawkeye team up with Chevreuse in my game, bring Yalan over to the whatever Marvel game they're making next, and she teams up with Hawkeye there. Bam. Now I know what you're saying, bud. You don't love Hawkeye. What about a third character? Yes, my Marvel, not all of my things have, most of my things only have one potential character. Marvel, I picked 3. And 3 is it, I promise. Nothing beyond this. So we have a big, strong, godlike character. We have a ground-level spy archer. I wanted something a little stranger. Something a little more mystical. But not the one you're thinking of. I chose the Scarlet Witch. I think if you obviously can't do full power Wanda, because that's crazy. She could just say no more heavenly principles. So we can't do that. Because Scarlet Witch abides no reason. So we would have to do her like base level when she's used in like TV shows or any other Marvel projects or like early Marvel. Make her a pyro catalyst user. And right down there at the bottom of the screen I got the Darkhold. Give her a catalyst based on the Darkhold. It's dark, kind of evil, maybe to represent that evil. It has kind of a life drain. Make her an amazing off-field pyro. That'd be cool. That'd be sick. Put Blade in Genshin. Have them wield his sword. I'd be down for that. Use blood powers. Could be considered pyro. Yeah, I could see that. Like a kind of... Or, there's another thing. I'll talk about it in 1 second. So, Catalyst, Darkhold, give it a life burn effect on her. I want her to be a really solid off-field pyro. Tracking fireballs are her skill. So, she summons a bunch of fireballs, you switch off those fireballs, periodically shoot out at enemies, and track them down. I want them to be good. Her passive is a slow fall. Or did I have another passive for her? I might have, yeah. Her first passive is a slow fall. Because she always has that kind of like hover. So she automatically, you can jump off without anything, and she'll auto-deploy the glider at the last second. As long as she's in your party. You never have to worry about that. One of her later passives that maybe she gets when you up her constellation is she buffs the Hexerai characters. So if we put Thor in the lunar, I want Wanda in the Hexerai. And to kind of demonstrate this, I want a quest involving fighting waves of Abyss mages and Fatui mages alongside Mona and Nicole. Why not have skills? She summons a Pyro clone. She can right now, because she's a Hexerei character, and she'd be teaming up with Nicole, it would create a duplicate fire clone, because that's literally what Nicole's ability is. We already have that ability in the game, so I didn't want to double up. So, but you could now create a duplicate Scarlet Witch with Nicole to fire additional fireballs. So she's the burner, Nicole's the support, Mona is Mona, and then you could do Varka or another Animo character as support here. Alright, that's it for Marvel, I promise. Although now that I'm thinking about it, you mentioned Blade. Blade would be really cool, I wouldn't hate that. I would probably do something like Life Burn, maybe like Fontaine's life-draining mechanic. So similar to Arlecchino's kit. Give him a story quest. He'd probably be a wild hunt hunter, right? Because he's hunting the undead, he's hunting monsters. But like weird monsters, not normal monsters. That could work. I want to avoid the X-Men. X-Men always adds an extra layer of stuff. So I avoided the X-Men. Scarlet Witch is in a limbo. And if you want to do something like Ultron-y, because all these characters were pretty big in Age of Ultron, and obviously we got a Vision quest coming out and Ultron's coming back, have them, the three of them team up. If you finish all their quests in this event, they team up for a special event with the Traveler where they fight an army of corrupted Gardamex. And that's the Ultron event. I literally just thought of that. Bam, throw that in there. Next, let's move on. Collab number 15. It's kind of the biggest phenomenon in the world. It's kind of huge. It surpassed Marvel in comics a couple years ago. Because why not add Quicksilver? Because we can't add 100 Marvel cameos. And Quicksilver is just fine. One Piece. You know I'm a One Piece fan. I'm literally wearing a One Piece shirt right now. It has passed Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man as the best-selling comic book of all time. It has one of the best-selling card games in the world. It has multiple video games. It has a live-action adaptation that's killing it, and is one of the only good live-action anime adaptations of all time. It's getting a third season coming out next year, and it's getting a second animated series. The anime's been going for so long and is so beloved, but the pacing was very rough in the beginning, so they're even redoing an anime. Wit Studio, who I really enjoy, is doing a new anime that's coming out I believe early next year. So One Piece is phenomenal. Normally I talk about the characters. What I'm going to talk about first... Okay. You're wrong. It's literally the greatest story in the world, and it's probably my favorite story of the past few years. Yeah. It's been on fire since End of Wano. All of Egghead was incredible. Elbaf has been pretty fun. Let's move on and talk about what I would include. I'm not going to talk characters. I'm going to talk the event first. A Mugiwara glider. Mugiwara is the symbol of the Straw Hat crew. If you don't want to get that specific, do a Jolly Roger Skull and Crossbones black and white themed glider. You don't really have anything that dark. An event around treasure hunting. That would be like using treasure maps to find rare chests. That's pretty obvious. Genshin, I feel like, has done a pretty good job incentivizing exploration, but put rare chests around the world that have limited time coins that'll let you earn the stuff from this event. And there's nothing to point it out but obscure maps. So you actually have to study the world map and try and figure out where they are. the other event. A pirate hunt event. Bring back that stupid little boat from Inazuma. The Wave Rider. Move it between islands, and every time you have to protect your boat, because you only get one, and if you fail, you have to start over. You have to go from island to island, and then get off the boat and fight a strong enemy at each island. I think that's pretty easy. It's pretty solid. And you get special items for fighting these. And in the teapot, because Genshin also likes doing teapot stuff, put a little model of the Going Merry, the first ship of the Straw Hat crew. Pretty simple. So now, what character would fit? One Piece has over 1,500 named characters. One Piece is an insane project that has been running for close to 30 years. It's probably only going to run for, I'm guessing, less than 5. He's announced he's near the end, but he's a workaholic that lives for the story, Eiichiro Oda. So I'm betting 5 more years. Because we've met the final boss, we fought the final boss, he kind of stomped us, and now it's time for the final arc. No, because that would be lame. What characters would I put in here? Roronoa Zoro and Nico Robin. They have appeal, and cool factor and recognizability. I have a Nico Robin, a Zoro, a Nami, a Vivi figure up there, a Chopper figure, and 5 Luffy figures. You know what they say, the only people that think One Piece is lame is people that haven't read it. I did not get down all of my One Piece statues for this. I could have, though. So let's talk about these two characters. What would I do with them? Zoro. Electro sword user. Pretty obvious. I'd make his main sword, the one that's right here behind his back, it's Enma. The one he gets during the Wano arc. His black blade. And he's kind of known for his 3-sword style. His main combat would focus on 1-sword style. But his skill would switch him into 2-sword style for a flurry of blows. Maybe like a rapid spin or like the Onigiri or one of those. And then his burst would be a 3-sword style dash. Maybe he does his 3-world tristylicism, where he gets the 2 extra heads and the 4 extra arms, but you do the Raiden Shogun thing and you make them out of Electro to kind of make him look like the Demon Asura as he's doing this big burst attack, and it's all Electro themed. To level up him, you would collect sake bottles as the consolation. Where would you get the sake bottles? That pirate hunt event I just mentioned. As you hunt down other pirates, which are other strong enemies, elite Fatui, local legends, whatever, you collect the sake bottles from them to power up Zoro. Next up, Nico Robin. I would make her a Dendro Catalyst user. That sounds a little odd, but bear with me, because her Dendro Catalyst would be the Hana Catalyst. She gets her power from the Hana fruit, which means the flower fruit. It lets her create duplicate arms that look like, but it also, as a byproduct, creates flower petals everywhere. The representation in the live-action Season 2, Episode 1 was beautiful and really terrifying. But I think she'd be great. So she's creating all these flowering vines and arms that strike from the floor and like ripple outward, creating pulses of dendro. Or she can attack enemies from range, a hand will pop up on them and smack them, and it'll flower and bloom. Her constellations are gotten from poneglyphs. Where would you get the poneglyphs? You would get them from the treasure hunt event. You'd get them from the treasure hunt event. The poneglyphs would show up in like finding them, and it wouldn't be in everyone. You have to keep exploring to get the 6 poneglyphs. And that's what the Hana Hana no Mi looks like, so that would be her catalyst. Okay. I'm not a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, but would choose that over One Piece. How would that make sense, bud? It fits. It is the perfect adventure story. I'm sorry. You're wrong. Moving on. Number 14. Bleach. We're talking about a different member of the big three. And guess what? Naruto is nowhere on this list. I love Naruto. I loved Naruto growing up. I watched Naruto. I watched Shippuden. I read the Itachi book. I read Sakura's book. I've consumed Naruto. I've consumed Shippuden. I've consumed a good amount of Boruto, which is a lot better. The anime was off to a real bad start. The anime kind of ruined Boruto's reputation. One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto. Sorry, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, and Naruto are the known worldwide, and all three are long as hell. It's okay, buddy. Some people don't like long-form storytelling. I have pretty severe HD, so usually I can't do it unless I think it's worth it. I've done it with all three of them. Naruto is great, but its pacing and I feel like its theming fell off a cliff. It really lost the plot, especially during the later arcs of Shippuden. It was good and had some beautiful, memorable fights and incredible moments, but it really lost the theme and the heart of what made Naruto so original initially. In my opinion, I still love Naruto. I love Dragon Ball Z. I'm obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. I played the game. I played every game. I've played Heroes in Japan. I've watched the Heroes anime. Do you know who Salsa is? Because I do. Do you know who Demon Lord Demigra is? What about Mechikabura? I know. I love Dragon Ball Z. I'm a big fan of even the arcs that have not been adapted to the anime yet, and I hope they will, like Granola or the Moro arc. I would love to see the Moro arc animated. Frickin' Merus, am I right? But I think Dragon Ball would not make a lot of sense in a game like this. In terms of sheer power, unless you're talking about Kid Goku, the sheer power of it probably wouldn't make sense. Beerus is funny, but Beerus is fun. I like Beerus. Jiren is a very cool piece of cardboard. He has no personality whatsoever. He's a cool idea. He's more of a wall and an obstacle than less of a character. Beerus can wear out his welcome a little bit, but usually I enjoy Beerus. Okay. I'm excited for the new Beerus anime that's coming out, where they're finally going to fix all the problems they had animating the Beerus arc in Super. Anyway, Bleach. A potential collab for Bleach. It's kind of obvious who I'm going to start with, and it's our boy Ichigo Kurosaki. Right? It makes sense. He's the protag of Bleach. And Bleach is getting a worldwide resurgence. Over the past few years, the 1,000-Year Blood arc, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, has been incredible. It's been beautifully animated. And I think Bleach had an amazing opening and an amazing ending. Bleach started out so strong. It started out the gate with the Soul Society retrieval arc. Great. But then it got logged down with filler. It had the weird doll arc. It had all that stuff. The manga did better because then it went into Waco Mundo, which was really cool. Alright. Ichigo. I would make Ichigo an Animo Claymore. Think of his spiritual pressure as Animo. He has a Getsuga Tensho skill where he does a single charging, heavy piercing, heavy shredding attack in a straight line. And his burst would be Mugetsu, the giant dark blade, which would be a wider area of effect attack. I would probably keep him to his Shikai, which is this giant sword, not his Bankai. You could do like Holification and do the Sero attack. I figured that's a little much. He has to collect fragments of hollows to build his constellation. The other character I would pick is Rukia Kuchiki. I'll talk about that in 1 second, bud. Rukia Kuchiki is very recognizable for a lot of early Bleach fans. She's the one who kind of got him in. She became a little less important as the show went on. My other options were like Byakuya, who's more of a fan favorite, Yoruichi, who's my favorite, Orihime, or Uryu. All of those would be acceptable. But I think the balance of these two works really well, and you could do some fun quest stuff with them. Her sword would be Cryo, obviously. We have her Shikai. Her ability would be the White Hereafter skill, which creates a giant field of Cryo. So it would buff Cryo. She'd be a Cryo buffer. Her burst would be Absolute Zero. So while she spends most of her time off-field, and you have your attackers on-field, you switch her in for a large Absolute Zero burst that takes frozen enemies and deals extra damage, or enemies that have a cryo-affected status and deals extra damage to them. Absolute Zero. She levels up by collecting Lost Souls, because that's the job of the Soul Reaper, right? Our substitute Soul Reaper and our true Soul Reaper. I would do a special domain. In the anime, the original Bleach anime, they drop the ball in a lot of points, like I said. But Tite Kubo, his style and his stylization for the harsh whites and blacks, and he gets contrast really well. So I would do a very harshly delineated black-white domain. With their quest, you team up. So the Traveler would team up with these two. So you have a Cryo and Animo in your party. You have to go through and fight Hollows. You're going to this domain to fight Hollows, which are spectral versions of the Living Legend level foes. So you could take actual Living Legends, just dye them blue and stick them in here, kind of like Natlan's spirits. Or you could take ones from other nations, stick them in here, or bosses, stick them in here, but just make them a little stronger than normal. And you have to fight them with these two plus 2 of your characters. I think that could be really cool. And fighting these different enemies unlocks Hollow Fragments and Lost Souls as their story advances. Yep. Okay. I considered Naruto. I love Naruto, like I said. You're saying look at Haku, look at Zabuza. But there are so many characters in Naruto that would fit very well in Genshin. But what I was looking into was, what characters do I think would fit well and be honest to a weapon fighting game like this? Choose at least 3 that make sense. Alright. Of them that would make sense, more than Naruto, I would say Sasuke would make more sense than Naruto. Sword fighter, I'd make him Pyro, even though he has electro attacks. I'd make him Pyro. And I would do Amaterasu as his ult, or as his burst. I also hate Sasuke. Sasuke is probably one of my least favorite characters in Naruto. I think his story is one of the big downsides of later Naruto. Naruto, you would have to do. I think it would be very hit or miss. Weapon. See, because Naruto fight is largely hand-to-hand and ranged. So he would have to be a catalyst or a bow user. And I think it would be Animo Catalyst for Naruto. You'd make it a Shuriken, or you'd make it a Rasengan floating above his shoulder as his catalyst. And Rasen Shuriken is his burst. The number 3 I would want to do, because again, you have to balance appeal in Genshin and appeal in Naruto, but I also want to keep them honest to what they are. So like their passive, I would have to make it like wall running, but you wouldn't be able to do a lot of the cool stuff. You wouldn't be able to do clones. You wouldn't be able to do any of that. I think that would be... because that's adding too many systems to Genshin. If that makes sense. That change the core of what Genshin is. So that's the balancing act I'm trying to ride here. Have her Catalyst be Tamari's her fan. Yeah, I would say if anything, Tamari would be like a staff user, and a polearm user, and then just do like an extended fan that she'd use it as a pole and then open it up for burst and attacks. But again, Tamari's cool, Zabuza's cool, Haku's cool. They are such minuscule parts of the whole. Like, I don't think... like, I've played every Ultimate Ninja game. I love Naruto. I don't think Naruto could be represented well in Genshin, and I don't think he would service them well, is what I'm trying to say here. Same with Sasuke, because Sasuke sucks. And Sakura. And then the only other one that would kind of be up there is Kakashi, who I'd say would probably also be really good. An Electro Kakashi. He summons lightning dogs to hunt, even though lightning Kirin was kind of Sasuke's thing, but I'd have him modify it. Yeah. I don't know if it would work as well. Like, straight up, taking sword characters and putting them in an action fantasy game makes sense. Maybe. I didn't play it. Next one. I'm moving on. Number 13. Baldur's Gate 3. Top game of 2023? 2023. I spent so long on this game. I bought this game on PC. I loved it. And then I bought it on PS5 and loved it. And I've been tempted to buy it on physical, just in case. Based? Yes, it is. It's great. Love Baldur's Gate. Love, 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 love Baldur's Gate. I'm gonna do what I did with One Piece here. Before I introduce the characters I picked, I'm going to talk about what I want out of this thing. And I want something big to match the scale of Baldur's Gate, because you can truly sink hundreds, if not thousands of hours into Baldur's Gate. And they just keep giving out free expansions. They're so generous, Larian Studios. Sven, I forget his last name. I always forget his last name. But they are a based company. So what would I do for Baldur's Gate to represent its scale? I would do a multi-stage and layout dungeon based on various parts of Baldur's Gate. So as you're moving through this super domain, I'm going to call it a dungeon, connoting to the Dungeons and Dragons roots of Baldur's Gate. You're moving through, like, doorways, and you're teaming up with different characters from Baldur's Gate as you're moving through. So the first area would be based on Mondstadt. It'd be a very large area that's based on the Goblin Camp from Act 1 of Baldur's Gate 3. And this is a Hilichurl camp. So, with a Fey leader. Like Baldur's Gate, we want to leave it up to the player. So you can sneak through and get the key from the Fey leader to open the door on the far side of this massive camp. Or you can balls to the wall fight your way through Hilichurls, Loachurls, Savaturls, all of them, and their Fey leader, to get the key to advance to the next part of the dungeon. The next part, based on the beginning of Act 2, or the middle of Act 2, the Shadow Cursed Lands, the dark lands that drain your life and are filled with undead. That's Wild Hunt and Ghost, baby. That's easy. We have undead enemies with the Wild Hunt, and then ghosts. They've established ghosts look like regular people, but slightly see-through. So take treasure hunters, make them slightly see-through. Take Fatui, make them slightly see-through. Throw them in there with the Wild Hunt. And you have to fight your way through this decrepit necropolis in the Shadow Cursed Lands to make it to a far distant tower. And there'll be, like, hidden items all around that you can find, and exploration will be rewarded with the ascension materials for the characters. So you can't, the idea that I had here was the ascension materials are not gotten by beating this dungeon. They are hidden in the dungeon and you have to explore and find them. Part 3, the third room would be the Underdark. You can either choose Sumeru's Underground, or more appropriate would probably be the Chasm. So use the Chasm artwork, build a dungeon based around that. Fill it with Black Serpent Knights, which would represent the Duragar, and the Orc army down there. And the mushrooms are the Mycenids, or Myconids. That's easy. But make it oppressive, because the Underdark felt that way. There was nowhere to heal. Everything felt dangerous. And the final area would be based on the High Hall at the end of Act 3, where you go to fight the Elderbrain. I was trying to think what would be the best, because there's no real, I think there's one octopus type enemy in Nod Cry, but I'm like, I don't want that here. I was trying to think what else would be really good. And there's one obvious connotation. The Illithids in D&D that serve the Elderbrain are eldritch, right? They ride the Nautilus ships. They're from beyond this world. That's the Abyss, baby! So you're fighting Abyss Heralds, the Mimiflora shapeshifters, and the giant Papia shapeshifter represents the Elderbrain. Strengthen it up, and you have to keep doing damage, but enemies keep getting summoned in to distract you. That's the High Hall. Easy. There's 2 other things that I would do in this. I would do a white dog named Scratch in the teapot. We have a named cat in the teapot. I think his name is Sir Pouncelot. And you can pet him, and you can hang out with him. Give us a dog you can pet. Name it Scratch, put it in the teapot. Every day, you can talk to him, and he gives you a random amount of wood. He can give you 1 to 5 pieces of a random wood, because Scratch fetches you sticks. That's it. That's all you need. The other one is a companion. And this is where I think I've gone too far. I would do a companion based on us. That's us down there. He's an intellect devourer, which is a brain with legs and tentacles. You meet him in the game and talk to him, and you lobotomize him. And then he becomes your friend and pet. And I love us. He's a little talking brain. Make it less gross. Make him float above you. Us. Now to talk about the most important part. What 3 characters? Because obviously we have our core cast of characters in Baldur's Gate, right? Shadowheart, Will, Gale, Astarion, Lae'zel. Karlach is not on here. Jaheira is not on here. We obviously have our player character. We have our big old sex bear. Whatever. Did I pick my favorite characters? Maybe. But I also picked the characters that I think are the face. There were 4 potential characters that I could have gone with. I went with 3 of them. I said I did not often go for 3. I usually went for 1 to 2 characters representing each franchise. This one I picked 3. Again, to talk about the scale. Who did I pick? Shadowheart. She's kind of the face of the game. The real face of the game, though, is Astarion. And I think Shadowheart was my favorite, but my second favorite, and a character that I think has gotten bigger as the game has come out, because Astarion's voice actor, Neil Newborn, and this voice actor do so much together, and it's Karlach, and again, I'm realizing my head is right above Karlach. But, big demon woman. Right there. Bam. Karlach. Alright? So those are the 3 I would do. How would I do them? Shadowheart. Again, the point of D&D is you can pick whatever you want for them, but they all have base roles in game, and that's kind of what I'm basing this off of. She's base the cleric, so I'm making her a Dendro polearm. I gave her the weapon I chose is the Spear of Evening, which is kind of from the tail end of her quest. I'm not reacting to anything right now, buddy. Sorry. I'll add it to my list, though. She would be all based around healing. So she would be a heavy support character. Possibly a shielder, but definitely a healer. Would have a Dendro skill, Dendro poke. Asterion. I didn't know Asterion had a last name, to be honest, till I was looking it up. I'm making him a Hydro Sword. Sounds odd for a vampire. I gave him the Bloodthirst Dagger. Just add a couple extra squiggles and make it a sword. Done. It's now the Bloodthirst Sword. He would have a life-draining burst. I would give the Fontaine life bar mechanic. And if he's Hydro, pairing him with a lot of the Fontaine characters who benefit from draining and regaining life makes a lot of sense. I think that, and giving him, because he's the thief, so he's meant to be taking. So again, I'm trying to fit their roles. He'd be a constant on-field attacker, draining life. Then you would switch in other Fontaine characters and do their things that build that life-draining meter. Karlach. My girl Karlach. Our big demon tiefling. You would have to soften the demon vibes, probably, for a crossover. I didn't think about that in China. You'd probably have to soften the demonness of it. But she'd be Pyro Claymore. That's very easy. You give her the Hellfire Great Axe right here, which is kind of her endgame weapon. She has a high damage pounce skill. She would be a DPS, but not your main DPS. You would want to have... She goes in for big, powerful hits. So you would have, for example, Shadowheart providing support, Asterion on field doing life drain, then switch in for Karlach to do your skill, which is a big, heavy damage attack. And that would kind of be the rotation of these three. How you would constellation them up and level them up is by doing that dungeon, which is a super domain. Moving on. Number 12. Monster Hunter Wilds. We did Monster Hunter Wilds on the channel. I generally enjoyed Monster Hunter Wilds. That's so many, buddy. I said not right now. I generally really liked Monster Hunter Wilds. I think it was a great game. I know Capcom kind of fell off a cliff with it, and they got a little big for their britches. But I still enjoyed my time with the game. Now, the problem with Monster Hunter Wilds is they don't really have a character you can pick. If you do like Monster Hunter Stories or something like that, that has characters, but I feel like that doesn't have the name recognition of Monster Hunter Wilds, the big brand, the big console PC releases that this has. I mean, I guess it has Gemma, who's a baddie. But I decided no characters. So that's why some of mine have 3. This one has no character crossover. But then, what's the point of the collab? Events. The Rathalos event. Now, like I said with Alexander back in Elden Ring, I don't want to have to make new bosses with new mechanics and new animations. If we can use a pre-existing boss, that's what we will do. That was one of my stipulations for making this. Luckily, we have a big red dragon who uses fire and flies around and spends half the fight in the air. The Gold Flame Kukazor in Natlan. Make them crazy strong, make that battle last 3-4 times the length it normally does, because I fly through that thing, and give you special conditions for what we can do in this fight. And bam, you have a Rathalos event. That's easy. Let's up it up, let's make it a bit higher. A big part of being the Monster Hunter Wilds games is going on these longer hunts and hunting multiple monsters in one sitting. I call it the Super Saurian Hunt event. It's not Saurians, though. The name's a little misleading. You have to fight strong bosses from each region with special conditions. So, like, you're given a condition, you start in Leeway. You have to fight the Primo Geovishap, right? And you have to fight it in an X amount of time. Then you move a little north and fight the Solitary Suwani, who I feel is the boss that often gets forgotten about. You have to beat them with one Hydro and one Animo character. You make your way to Sumeru, where you fight the Jade Plume Terror Shroom, or the Setek Wenu. No one ever talks about that boss, because it's more of a gimmick boss, right? Because it dives underground, but that's what a lot of monster hunters do. And you have to finish it off with a skill. There you go. Or you have to finish it off with a bow. Pick a weapon, pick an element. We move on to Fontaine. You have to fight the crab, the Emperor of Fire and Iron. In Natland, you fight the Lava Dragon. In Nodcry, you fight... Who would be a good one to fight? The Moon Gecko. That's kind of a one that's often forgot about, the Moon Gecko. So you're fighting all these big monsters, all with special conditions and rules. Kind of Abyss style, but out in the world. I think that would be really neat. What else could we do for Monster Hunter Wilds? Like I said, I want give and take. So what can we give to Monster Hunter Wilds? Give them a boss. Give them... I spent a lot of time thinking what boss would be the best, and I settled on Ajdaha. Look at Ajdaha. He's a big dragon with a tree for a tail. Tell me that's not a Monster Hunter. Look at the Monster Hunter here. It's a giant dragon with a bunch of rocks for a tail. The Arkveld, right? Ajdaha, I think, would fit so well in that world. And it's not the first time they've taken other characters. I believe they took Omega from Final Fantasy and put it in Monster Hunter Wilds as a limited time boss. Do the same with Ajdaha. Put it in a canyon. Put it in like a rocky crag or cave. And you have to fight this multi-stage boss fight who dives underground and does elemental attacks with his trees. Or maybe changes his attacks based on what you're hitting him with. I love that team from Capcom. They've made their mistakes, but they know what they're doing when it comes to big, scary monster fights. Something dumb for the teapot. The feline-themed stove. That one's easy. Everyone loves the chef cats in Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Wild. They're hysterical, they're fun. Give us a stove based around the felines. And lastly, there's one other aspect of Monster Hunter that I feel is super important and can easily be represented through these two events. The biggest part of Monster Hunter, aside from hunting monsters, is what do you do after that? You harvest them, and you turn them into weapons. So we have special Rathalos-themed weapons. Our catalyst is a Rathalos shield, but just make it smaller, make it a catalyst. A Rathalos polearm, a Rathalos sword, a Rathalos greatsword, and a Rathalos bow. And you don't have to make them weapons. Genshin, all Genshin has to make is code making these bosses slightly stronger and make a teapot. Then design these weapons. You don't have to make them mechanically any different. Make them weapon skins. Done. You have to fight the Rathalos, and you only get a chance each time you fight the Rathalos. Add a little RNG, because that's very Monster Hunter, but don't make it as bad. And bam! Number 11. And this is a big one. I like this one. Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. This is far more recent of an anime than others that I've talked about. And is incredibly successful. It was one of the top animes of the past few years. It was probably my top anime of 2024. I really love the first season of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. It's a little slower than some people like. I'll give you one second. Yeah. It's a little slower than some people like, but I think Frieren has a beautiful story. It has beautiful music. It has very realistic, grounded characters that are incredibly interesting. And I think it has the potential to be incredibly good. Because as far as I know, they haven't collabed with too many people yet. So I think this could be a really good selling point for both them and for Genshin. Um, we go. Sorry, I had to reset the music. Or switch it up. Alright, Frieren Beyond Journey's End. How would it work? Well, in terms of characters, that one's kind of obvious. We go Frieren. The main character, the 1,000-year-old elf, wise beyond her years. The basic premise, the elevator pitch of Frieren Beyond Journey's End is it's Beyond Journey's End. Frieren did her D&D adventure already. She saved the world as part of the hero's party. The hero Himmel, the dwarf, the priest, and her, the wizard, or the mage. They journeyed across the world on a 10-year journey, saved it, and it's only years later did she realize she never appreciated those adventures. So she's going on a new adventure, retracing her steps and looking back on her previous adventure and her life to recontextualize it and its meaning. It's thoughtful, it's pondering, it's pretty funny. I like Frieren. And eventually the scenes, when it starts picking up and you get more action stuff around episode 8, 9, 10, it has some really solid action beats. Frieren herself, Dendro Catalyst with ranged and AoE attacks. And you're like, hey, Frieren is literally holding a staff. Why not make her a polearm user? Just make the weapon based on her staff. Just saw off the top of it, and just the top of her staff, that's her catalyst. I want her to be far more ranged than what the polearm usually has to offer. A quest. A big quest. Based on the search for the blue moonweed. Or the blue moon flowers. The one's right there. Right there. It's a very early arc of the show. It's very touching and is important to her and Himmel the hero. And the story behind it and Frieren's favorite spell is very touching. What I would do, a quest, you are given a book with clues, written clues, about locations around the map where blue moon flowers could be found. You have to go around and explore. There's no circle on the mini map of where you should go. It's somewhere in Mondstadt is a small field, like a small circle of blue moon flowers. Find the one in Mondstadt. When you do, you get one blue moon flower as Frieren's constellation. Now do the same in Sumeru. Then do the same in Fontaine. Same in Natlan. The same in Inazuma. And the same in Nodcry. Spread out. Find the flower fields. And what can be cool is, I like when you make permanent changes to your game world. If you pull Frieren and do this quest, maybe those flower fields, like they're not big. I'm not talking like a full field of flowers. I'm talking like a small ring. Right? Maybe like a 10-foot across diameter ring of flowers. So something small that's hard to find, but rewarding when you find it. Maybe they stay in the world. And when you're walking through Sumeru, you're like, oh my god, there's just a patch of blue flowers. I remember that. And that could be cute. Because the idea is Frieren's bringing back the blue moonweed. Again, every character needs a food special. I haven't done that with every character because some characters are a little up in the air and I don't really know what they would eat. Frieren's is easy. It's an extra large Hamburg steak. It's the one she makes for Stark, but we see her eating those, and it's kind of like the dish of Frieren. It's either that or the ice cream. I went with the extra large Hamburg steak. And the only other thing I could think of that would be fun is a special teapot item. It looks like a normal Genshin treasure chest, but it's a mimic. Hey, give us variants, give us a common chest, give us a rare chest, give us an uncommon chest, and give us a luxurious chest, whatever, 4 of them. And when you interact with them, all it does is open and reveal fangs. But maybe if you have Freerin in your party, you get the classic Freerin animation of Freerin being eaten by a mimic. The only Freerin merchandise I own is her being eaten by a mimic. Alright. I'm going to pause here for a minute. We're at the halfway point. A brief aside. Is there lore here? Hey, Hollow, I hear you say. Aren't you a lore guy? Doesn't this all fly in the face of the lore? This isn't accurate to the lore. Wouldn't all these people be descenders? That's a big problem. It's one of the main problems people had with Aloy. That and her kit sucking. But I say nay. No. 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 There is lore here. There's pre-existing lore built into the world that we can use. I said I was going to make sense of this, and this is me doing that. This is me keeping my promise from an hour ago at the beginning of the video. There is pre-existing lore built into the world of Genshin around summoning and magic. This was once used by King Ermin to call upon the siblings. Yes, recent moon lore hints that the travelers were coming to Teyvat regardless, or at least they were aware of Teyvat after the whole Ninkijia egg event. Eggy. But his Ermin's summoning did something to allow the Abyss Twin to be inscribed into Ermin's soul and become part of the world, and therefore not a descender. That is why we are the 4th descender, but our sibling, the Abyss sibling, is not a descender, even though we both came from beyond the world, beyond the Sea of Stars. What was that? Here we have a image of King Ermin tasking the princess to find the Genesis Pearl from the Kingdom of Darkness. Neither here nor there. Scaramouche mentioned there's reason why the records about your sister are in Irminsul. It might have something to do with Conria. Conria was her first destination when she arrived in this world. Plus, she only came to this world because the heavens responded to the summoning. So you can summon people from beyond the world that are not descenders. Scaramouche mentioned the heavens responded. Ready? Actually, hold on. A quick aside within an aside. When I was looking this up, I found this picture, then found this picture, which is part of the battle pass that you buy every time. Could the Abyss Twin have been the Conrian envoy who went to Enkanomiya to steal the text before Sun and Moon? Because Before Sun and Moon is all a text about the heavenly principles, so it may have been of interest to King Ermin, and her quest was to find the Genesis Pearl. They mentioned the Thanies came from an egg or something similar to that, so could the Genesis Pearl have been a proto-celestial or a proto-descender? And it also kind of looks like Orobashi. Orobashi was, I believe, dead at this point, but the pearl, the Orobashi, the pearl kind of resembles Watatsumi Island. That's kind of what I was feeling from this. I don't know if that's here or there. I just thought it was interesting. Back to my thing. Everyone summons in Genshin. Even Piero summons, as we recently learned. That's an actual picture from the game, by the way. Anyway, how would this lore work? It probably couldn't be introduced right away in the immediacy. So let's aim a little further down the road, right? Genshin has a roadmap, they have a plan. Let's push past Snezhnaya. We probably can't sneak anything in now. Conria, Celestia are next. Those are our two that are up in the air. Beyond that, Hoyoverse claims they have long-term plans for Genshin. Will that be Genshin Impact 2? Genshin Impact 2nd? I don't know. Or will it just be, we can go beyond the Sea of Stars, into the Dark Sea, beyond the Abyss, search for more. Who knows? During that, though, we could introduce lore about how this could work. Particularly in the Conria chapter is where I'm looking. I would say the techniques and or technology used to summon the sibling or pull Paimon from Celestia to the world still exists. And it is going to be used in an event to make the Abyss... Genshin, when all else fails, they blame the Abyss. The Abyss reaches out into the Sea of Stars and calls the most marketable characters to that. They have their time-limited events, right? And we can base it on the success of the Fate series in Honkai Star Rail or Cyberpunk in Wuwa, right? And then you help those characters. They manage to return to their worlds, but an echo of them stays behind that we can use on our teams. Done. That's it. That's all I need. I want lore for how it works, and a reason we can still use this person. I'm good. Alright. That was a quick aside. Back to the fun stuff. Number 10. Bum, bum, bum. God of War. God of War. Dad of Boy. God of War. It makes sense. Kratos. I know. I'm mixing it up. I think Kratos would be a solid pick. This would be what I see as a Sony redemption, is what I'm calling this. Number 10, so 11 through 20 were pie-in-the-sky ideas. 10 through 1 are things I can see happening. I could see this happening as a Sony redemption. Because Sony kind of forced Aloy. I think this could be a good Sony property, or a much more beloved Sony property, being utilized. Kratos. How would I implement Kratos? I'd want to take from Kratos' story as a whole. I'd base his design more off the recent Norse games. Again, we're tying into Norse mythology, which we could tie into Conria very well. As I just said, Conria is important for the summoning stuff. That's where this happened. I would make Kratos a Pyro Claymore user. I know what you're thinking. Kratos uses the Leviathan axe. That's ice. No. Majority of his thing, he's Pyro. Make him a Pyro Claymore user. Give him a weapon based around his Blades of Chaos. Just put them on together, make him a giant Blade of Chaos. Done. There's a reason I'm not making him Cryo. His skills could be based on any number of his powers. Kratos has got powers for days. I could talk about all the gods he's killed and the powers he's taken. Pick any number of them to be his skills. If you wanted to keep it in-house with just Kratos' kit, make this the more Blades of Chaos thing. His weapon breaks and he's shooting around flaming chains. That's cool. And like lashing out, so he has like ranged chain whips as part of his skill. His ult is a Spartan Rage. Ups his attack, deals consistent pyro damage to everything around him. His passive, extra meat from hunting. It's just something I think Kratos would have and is a little silly. So now you're thinking, okay, so we did dad, next we have to do boy. I should have gotten down my Kratos statue too. It's literally directly next to my Aloy statue. I don't know if that can be seen, but literally it's Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, directly next to the special edition Kratos and Atreus from this God of War, the 2018 version. So you're expecting we did dad, next we do boy? No. Oh, sorry. First things first. his warrior domain. What is Kratos' story? Kratos is fighting through a powerful enemy gauntlet. That's Kratos. Kratos is combat-centric. He is fighting powerful enemies. He's solving a little bit of puzzles, harkening more back to the old God of Wars, where the puzzles were a little more important. But you're fighting elite Fatui, Black Serpent Knights, Consecrated Beasts, Romurian Golems, Magu Kenki, and it's in one thing. So you have to plan out a team that involves Kratos to deal with all different kinds of powerful enemies. So it's kind of Abyss, Spiral Abyss vibe of like gauntlet with one team against a wide variety of enemies. The other character, though, is not Atreus. I chose Laufey, Kratos' second wife, and the main character of the upcoming God of War, Laufey. And guess what? Laufey is a frost giant, so she's going to be my cryo user. So that is what's going on here. They are a melt team together. She has a sword based on the sword she's using in the trailers to the new game. Rue, I know Rue is technically the ribbon on that sword. Whatever. Her skills, very interesting. I don't know. Based it on the upcoming game. We've seen a lot of her combos. A lot of what she does is like crowd control and grappling. I think that could play very well with Kratos, where she's grappling people and pulling in distant enemies and freezing them. Then you switch to Kratos and set up Pyro to melt. It could be really cool. Her passive, I don't know, something about finding paths. That's kind of what she did in the first game, where she marked the path to the Land of Giants. Again, it might be something from the new game. I think it could be cool either way. And I think releasing one without the other is doing them a disservice. Releasing them together seems like a cool idea. Her story, she's in the Frost Giant domain. Base it on that new map in Snezhnaya with the frozen lightning bolt. Because Kratos, when he fought Thor at the beginning of Ragnarok, froze a lightning bolt. But then we find one later on in the game, and it turns out Laufey once fought Thor and did the same thing. So frozen lightning bolts is kind of the thing of her axe, the Leviathan axe. Cryo Law Churls, Snegovics, Vishaps, particularly the lightning and ice ones, and the Snowboard King. So it's big lightning and ice themed enemies. And I think that is like a really good fit and vibe for them. Next. Give me a second, buddy. I was getting annoyed with someone earlier, so I think I closed out of it. There you go. Okay, next up. Number 9. And this one, again, pretty easy. Because this one has also had a lot of collaborations. The Witcher. Toss a coin to your Witcher. But not that version. We've been in kind of a slump for The Witcher with, honestly, the past 2.5 seasons of the show. But Season 1, for all its flaws, was carried by a particularly good actor. And Season 2 tried to improve it. And did in parts. And then Season 3 was written badly in Season 4 and whatever. But Witcher is seeing a resurgence. CD Projekt Red just announced that we're getting more Witcher 3 content. Witcher 3, which in my opinion has 2 of the best DLCs of all time. And what came out in, I want to say 2015 or 2016? 2016. It's been 10 years since this came out, and it's getting a DLC. A large, substantial DLC next year. On top of that, Witcher 4 is coming out starring Ciri. So it's kind of obvious who I'm going to be hyping up here? First and foremost, it's my boy, Geralt of Rivia. It's the White Wolf himself, you know? Pyro Sword. Use his Silver Sword, right? That's the one I'd say he uses more often. Use Igni skill. Igni sign is a skill, and you can hold it to extend extend the fire, and essentially create a mini flamethrower. And then maybe do like a quick fire shield with Quen. Every time you see The Witcher? I love The Witcher. What do you think? Yeah, exactly. You gotta think of Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill carried that show, and he was so passionate about The Witcher. The only reason The Witcher got so much right in the first 2 seasons was because of him. And then they kind of did a lot of pushback after that. Even, what was it, Andrzej Sarkowski, the author of The Witcher, who famously hates any adaptations of his work. He doesn't like the games. He doesn't like, there was an old show in the 90s, and he doesn't like the modern show. He likes one aspect of it. He thinks Henry Cavill was great, and he gave Henry Cavill his blessing because they talked and he saw how passionate Henry Cavill was. Easy passive for Geralt because he's all about preparation. He gets bonuses to potion duration is what I wrote here, but it could be anything. Like, if food gives you a passive bonus, he extends it. If potions give you a passive bonus, he extends it. And that would be like the best thing I can think of for Geralt. That, or he gives you a bonus to TCG, the card game. Don't worry about that. Ciri. Cirilla. I didn't write her full name because she has 4 names, and the first one is Cirilla. It's Ciri. That's just, it's who she is. She is not Cirilla, the Empress of, the Empress. She is Ciri. Yeah. Make her, oh, sorry. Henry Cavill, real life, isn't a typical jock in high school. It was a local nerd who loves his D&D. Yes. But he also was apparently just, like, always a good-looking guy. So I remember hearing someone say, like, imagine you're at a D&D shop, your local, your LGS, you're playing D&D with your friends, and all of a sudden this cool guy plays D&D with you, goes outside, hops on a motorcycle, and drives away. You're like, who the hell is this guy? But he loves Warhammer 40K. He loves comics. He's just a big old nerd, and I love him. I love Henry Cavill. He's so passionate, too, about the things he likes. Right? It makes sense. He was amazing as Geralt. And it's not that Liam Hemsworth is bad as Geralt. It's that he will forever be compared to Henry Cavill, which means he's not as good. Your aunt finds him hot and sexy. So do I. So Ciri. So Geralt is Pyro. I think that makes sense. Ciri is called the Lady of Space and Time. How do you connote Lady of Space and Time without stepping into the territory of the gods? In Genshin, time is associated with one element, wind. So I chose Anemo. Make her an Anemo sword. Use Ciri's signature sword as her signature weapon. How would that work, connoting wind with time and space? Short range Anemo teleport. I don't want to change the mechanics of the game, like I said, too much, and I feel like that could be dangerous. So if you wanted to make it a little more normal, you could do something akin to Kaching's zipping around teleport, or Alhaitham's zipping around teleport, or maybe like during her skill she vanishes and is invisible, similar to like Mona or Ayaka, and just reappears, and that's her teleporting. And then her ult, her burst, pure destructive force. Because Ciri is a ticking time bomb half the time. Big explosion. How would I incorporate these two into the game? In the easiest way possible. Monster contracts. Monster hunts are not the most fun, but they're a huge part of the Witcher games. Make them work like the old school bounty system did in Genshin. You know how, like, when you were building reputation in Mondstadt, I think all the way up to Natlan had no. Did Natlan have reputation? It did. It had localized reputation, and they dropped it for Nodcry and Snezhnaya. But every other nation before Natlan and earlier had a reputation where you'd have to go out and fight a stronger version of a monster. Imagine that. You have to fight a stronger version of a monster, but they're in the... Yeah, Natlan had 6 different reputation quests. That's right. You had to get it for each tribe. Oh, that's right. I do remember that. At the Wyob stone, right? At the giant black obsidian stone in each village. So how I would do this is say, like, hey, you got a report of a Snezhnayan Leshy, which is a folk monster that is often frequented in The Witcher, the giant tree spirits, but it's wandering around Mondstadt's woods. You have to go stop it, so Geralt has to go to Mondstadt to stop a Leshy before it reaches Springvale. Or, hey Siri, there's a pack of wolves being led by one of those crazy Nodcry wolves right outside of the... Or somehow they appeared inside the city of Fontaine. Stop them before they hurt anyone. So those are the stories. They could be really cool. Well, reputation has changed. It's now... it changed in Nodcry. They're not doing reputation, they're doing meeting points, which are the more character-centric stories. And I'm enjoying the one in Snezhnaya. I've started Alosha's Odette's, and Vodyanitsa's. They're pretty fun. And you're building a town alongside them. It's cool. Anyway, for these guys, you then need to throw in, inspired by The Witcher, you need a morally gray quest. Witcher had some of the best and most, in addition to an awesome world, Witcher had some of the best quest lines. I know everyone still that played this game still remembers the Bloody Baron. It's been 10 years, but the name the Bloody Baron has stuck with me. It's a fairly early game quest about like this repugnant, awful, miserly baron who's treating his people poorly, and you're going around and you're finding like all this horrible mystical stuff is going on, but then you find out this guy's incredibly tragic backstory, and you learned what hardened him, and you learned why he's doing all the horrible things he's doing, and you don't approve it, but you understand it and have the option to help him and put a stop to the haunting. And I'm like, it is one of the most beautiful quests. Or there's quests where there are monsters who haven't hurt anyone and are sentient, but maybe they have hurt someone and you don't know, and it's all a balancing act. There are stories. Was it in Baptism of Fire? Or I'm trying to remember the might have been the elves, something of the elves, where Geralt is joins. I think it's when Geralt and Ciri were traveling together, but Geralt joins a group to fight a war and stop, only to realize he was on the wrong side, and it's how he gets the title of Butcher, because he killed people that it turns out were not evil. And it's like, it's all these moral stuff. So whatever the quest is that you do with Ciri and Geralt, it needs to be morally gray. It needs to make you feel bad about yourself. And then that's really all you need for a Witcher collaboration, right? Geralt, Ciri, monster contracts, and Witcher. And if you're feeling spicy, you could maybe have a crossover with Gwent. Hoyoverse loves their card games. Gwent TCG card game. Give us Gwent card backs in Genius Invocation TCG. I have 4 Gwent decks in real life. We only played it a couple times, but I have them. I still have my Gwent decks. Okay. Witcher 3. Add it to the... Oof. Three. Okay. Moving on. Number 8. This is something a little newer that I have seen, but I know less about. But I've seen it in its entirety. I haven't finished reading it yet. Oh, wait. I skipped one. There's something else I don't know a lot about. Fire Emblem. I have admitted I do not know a lot about Fire Emblem. I have a number of Fire Emblem games that I have not played yet. I really want to do 3 houses before Fortune's Weave, the new Fire Emblem, comes out, because it looks incredible. I like a good tactic game. I just haven't locked in and done Fire Emblem. So I wanted to incorporate Fire Emblem for one specific reason. Nintendo. We know Genshin eventually is coming to the Nintendo Switch too. It's still listed as coming soon to Nintendo Switch 2 specifically. So they've actually updated it to change from Nintendo Switch to Nintendo Switch 2. So they said, yep, we're still planning on going up to Nintendo. Bear with us. I'm bearing. I'm not seeing. If they were to go the same way when they went to PlayStation, they collabed and created Aloy. What if they picked a game to translate when going to the Nintendo? I chose Fire Emblem. I think it makes a lot of sense. Magic, heroes, it's literally it's like such a similar world to Genshin. I wanted to incorporate heroes from across Fire Emblem's history, but I didn't want to cross over with Smash Brothers. I feel like I've run that course, like when I did Joker and stuff like that. So I wanted to pick characters that have not been in a Smash Brothers game. So no Marth, no Roy, no Byleth, no Lucina, no Chrom, no Ike, no Robin, no Corrin, no other Byleth, and no the goddess who shows up in the final Smash. Right? So, Sophis, I think, right? So, I took my limited Fire Emblem brain and went through Fire Emblem's history to find certain characters that I think would be really good. I chose these 3. This is going to be a lot shorter than my other ones because I don't know a lot about them. I know bare bones. First, up top is Sigurd. Apparently, in my research, people love this guy. He's Morth and Marth, Morth and Roy, Morth and Ike. He's the most beloved Fire Emblem main character from what I've seen. People love this dude. He is he's a sword user for most of the game, but then switches to a lance. Every character in Fire Emblem also has an element associated with them. That makes this very easy. The problem is, his is light, and we don't have light in the game yet. He doesn't have it. And I figure they're probably going to add light eventually. Until that happens, I made him Electro. He's an Electro polearm user. Lightning, it's as close as I can get until I know more. Again, I would do more about his moveset and his passives, but I'd never played Fire Emblem, so I don't know enough about him. Lyn. I do know Lyn. I've recognized this. People asked for her to be in Smash Brothers for years. I remember those petitions. She has a very Genshin-y feel to her. A very free, nomadic, warrior kind of vibe. And guess what? It fits. Her subtype in-game is Wind. Anemo Sword. Perfect. Done. Then we needed representation from the upcoming game. That game has not had representation yet. I chose Theodora. I chose her for reasons. Don't worry about it. I chose Theodora, who is a polearm user. So I have 2 polearm users here. But I also don't know what element she is yet. No one does. So, that's just a question mark for now. Now, all this being said, didn't add in Tears of Themis. Alright. All this being said, I think this is a good way for Fire Emblem and Nintendo to come to Genshin and Genshin to come to the Nintendo. That all being said, Fire Emblem does have its own gacha game. So hey, tradesies? You can have some of these guys? Sound good? Okay. Okay. Now, on to something else that I have consumed. I've taken it all in. I've eaten it all up. But I am not fully caught up. I have not read any additional source material. I have just watched what is available to me. And that is an anime called Delicious in Dungeon. Delicious in Dungeon is a fairly recent anime, which I think gives it some public recognition and a fresh audience, a younger audience. It's also had a couple collabs with various gacha games, which means they are open to collaboration, Genshin. There's a core cast of 4. I chose 2 of that core cast that I think would fit the best. First up is our boy Laios over there in the armor. And the whole premise of Delicious in Dungeon is literally that. It's cooking, there's drama, there's a lot of interpersonal drama, there's comedy, there is some action, but it's feel good, right? It's feel good comedy. There is heart there though. Laios. Dendro Sword. I want this to be a cooking team. It's plants and fire, baby. I think you can already guess what I'm gonna do. He has a unique sword that's really cool. It's called the Living Armor Sword. Right here, Kensuke, right here. It's a sword that's actually a living monster. And it has little eyes. You can see it has little eye stalks right here. And it's just a living monster sword. Cool. So he's Dendro. So he would be an on-field Dendro applier. So he's sitting there attacking and constantly applying Dendro with his sword. Next up, Marcel is the elf girl right next to him. And you can tell what she's carrying. She's carrying a staff. So guess what? Pyro Polearm. You see what I'm doing here? It's literally cooking. It's technically a burn team, but we don't want our food to be burned. We want our food to be thoroughly cooked. She has the center fire, obviously the Ambrosia staff polearm. I didn't notice there's a little mandrake right there. Cute. And the Ambrosia staff polearm is her weapon. She would be an off-field pyro. So she's our sub DPS. Marcel's our sub DPS pyro for Laios' on-field Dendro. That's our team. They're constantly applying burn to enemies to cook them. There would be a giant food-themed domain. It would feature scorpions, every different mushroom, the big consecrated vultures to kind of represent the dragon. I tried to represent different parts. I didn't know how to represent the Undine without doing an Oceanid. Which I didn't want to throw an Oceanid boss in there. So I tried to represent different parts of the show in this food domain. And yes, you can go in and collect constellations, but you're going in there mostly to collect cooking ingredients. Because I switched it up a little. In some things, like with God of War, I introduced the characters and then their domains. When I did Baldur's Gate, I did the domains and the characters. With One Piece, I did the domains, events, and then characters. So I usually introduce the characters and domains. The characters first. Sorry, the domains and events first, then the characters, because I like building up to the characters. But with Delicious in Dungeon, the characters are great, but they're not the point. There's something that they're working towards. And it's food. You're going in through these dungeons to get recipes for food. If these two had a passive, it would be food related. Like, maybe they can recreate any special dish. They have a much lower chance, or they always get a perfect dish. Something like that. There's different ways you could interpret it. So I would do new recipes based on the show. Scorpion and Walking Mushroom Hot Pot, Mandrake Basilisk Omelet, Exorcism Sorbet, Man-Eating Plant Tart. Look at the food from the anime. Tell me these wouldn't fit perfectly in Genshin just with a little cutout image. Like, I would kill for that Exorcism Sorbet and that Man-Eating Plant Tart. Like, all these look great, I'll be real. They nail food. It looks really good. I don't have any merchandise for Delicious in Dungeon. I can get a kitchen knife, I guess. I don't know. We're moving on. So that was 7. Well, I guess that broke. Alright, I guess that one broke. Or maybe I deleted it by accident. We just skipped straight ahead with number 6. Demon Slayer. I think this one's pretty obvious. People have wanted a Demon Slayer crossover in a lot of things. I think Demon Slayer is a really easy story to incorporate into a lot of things. It has such a wide variety of characters, but they have the same weapon. They are all sword users. So I only chose one character for Demon Slayer. And there are some amazing characters. Rengoku would be awesome. Gyu. There's so many cool characters to do. But I chose Tanjiro. If I was picking anyone, I would personally pick Inosuke. I love that pig-headed bastard. But Tanjiro makes the most sense. And of what he has, I chose Hydro instead of Pyro. I know he has his flame breathing, but his water breathing is more common and it's what he uses for most of the event. You give him his Nichirin sword, and you're using the Demon Slayer sword throughout the thing. His burst, I don't know what his regular move would be. One of his many moves, the water wheel, something like that. But his constant flux dragon, where the water is endlessly swerving and turns into a dragon's head, awesome. His passive, he does more damage at night, and Vaporize on his team does extra damage. So that's kind of me combining his water and fire nature. Vaporize around him does more damage. You would start with for his story quest, you would do a endurance domain, is what I'm calling it, where you teaming up with Zhao and Ayato against waves of enemies until sunrise. And as you're getting through these waves, you're collecting wisteria flowers, which is his constellation. Obviously, wisteria are the poison used by the Demon Slayers in that show. Then there is a second domain. Because I only did one character, I did 2 domains, because I thought that was more interesting. And I would do an Inazuma-style domain. Inazuma had so many weird, puzzly, room-based domains. It's friggin' Infinity Castle, which is one of the top-grossing anime movies in America of all time. I think it's the top-grossing anime movie. Higher than Broly, I think, right? So yeah, and doing this Inazuman domain will let you earn the other weapons from the other Demon Slayers. So I couldn't put a bunch of Demon Slayers all with the same swords, but you better believe I put their swords in here. Do Shinobu's sword. And then you can, of course, do my boy Rengoku's sword. Wow. There we go. I just think that'd be sick. Very careful with that. Not because it's sharp, but because it'll break. Yeah, and of course, right down here, we can have Tanjiro's Castello, which always looked really good as his recipe. Done. Alright, next one. One of my personal favorite stories of all time. I think it's one of the best written stories of all time. It's one of the most beloved and respected animes and mangas of all time. I believe it was only recently dethroned on my anime list. I'm of course talking about Full Metal Alchemist. I just wrote Full Metal Alchemist. You could take your pick, Full Metal or Brotherhood. Obviously, Brotherhood is better in the long run. Absolutely. Animation, I think Full Metal Alchemist nailed the first few episodes better because the first few episodes were more in line with the manga. The 2-episode story of Father Cornello, all of that. It did the mines with Loki and all of that. I think it was much better told in like a slower start. Brotherhood kind of dives right into it. But Brotherhood is so much more satisfying in the long run and so much more well written because they actually have a reason for the characters to be doing everything. They have a reason for the homunculus to be running around. And it wasn't because of Nazi Germany, which was... What? Yeah. What? That never made sense to me. Oh, it turns out alchemy comes from the pain of the Holocaust in a different dimension. Sure. Full Metal Alchemist anime writers, ignore the beautiful source material of the manga and do that. What characters? It's obvious what characters we're going to do for Full Metal Alchemist. Edward Elric is an electro polearm. Down here is one of his first times doing it. He summons the spear a lot. It's kind of his go-to spear. It's like a winged spear. It has that edgy bat thing that Ed is so good at. He also summons it when he is trying out in front of the state alchemist exam and uses it to threaten the Fuhrer and says, hey, this is a dumb way to run exams. Don't put political leaders in front of people who are summoning weapons. He also uses it against Father Cornello and the Chimeras. Why Electro? Because the electricity is so emblematic with the clapping. The way it works is he's in there fighting with his... I could do his arm sword, but I figured an actual weapon would be easier. He's constantly triggering electro bursts, and all around him, ranged. Every time he does a certain combo, you're seeing an alchemy lightning bolt strike out and hit someone. The other character, Alphonse Elric, as a geocatalyst. Make his catalyst, I don't know, just like an alchemy textbook. You can put their symbol, the symbol that's on Al's armor and on Ed's jacket. Put it on this catalyst book. I don't really have a specific thing for him to use without doing like the Philosopher's Stone or something. But he's a physical fighter. But he's in there, I picture him more like Risley, where he's doing decent damage, attacking fairly quickly, but he's bulky. He's meant to take damage and sustain hits and be putting up Geo while you're sustaining hits. So if you want Geo on the field, dropping Geo constructs, Al is the guy. I wanted to talk about something special now, though. What are their passives? There's a reason I saved passives till after I introduce the characters, because I think these are both very good. Edward Elric's passive is a bonus to making ascension stones at the alchemy crafting tables. He's literally an expert in making stones, and that's an ability we've never gotten from any character in Genshin. We're in the top 5. I wanted cooler things. So he can make the ascension stones that you use to level up every character. That would make him more desirable. Like, there's a chance to refund some of the Ascension Stones. That's huge. We have refund abilities for other alchemists, but not for Ascension Stones. That could just be something really cool. And then there's Al. His bonus to making talent books. We have things that are like that, but they're not consistent. We have like a 25% chance to get a refund and a 10% chance to get a duplicate. His is maybe double the second one. He has a 20% chance of getting a duplicate. Or a 50% chance of getting a smaller refund. Something like that. A higher percentage. Because these two are so practiced at alchemy. That's my thought process here. And again, I want them to be worth pulling for. But still honest to themselves and the game. Now for one of my favorite thoughts. What would their quest line be? Why are these brothers here in Teyvat? What are they working on? Well, Ed and Al would of course team up in the story with the other two alchemists in the game, Albedo and Sucrose, and it would be a special quest about searching for Gold's chimeras. So, Gold created life with bioalchemy. The brothers don't like that, because that's kind of bad in their world. And it's caused a lot of people trouble in Teyvat. So, my thought process was, freaking combine it. Have them, and then you could use this to not only get their perspective on events of Teyvat and their thought process, but you can also use it to fill in lore about bioalchemy in Conria and Ryan Dautier's experiments and Ryan Dautier's different creations. That'd be cool. And then, a Full Metal Alchemist themed crafting table for your teapot. Whatever. Next one, I'm excited about. I do have a Full Metal Alchemist statue, but again, it's up there, and I'm not going up there for any of my statues. Next collab. We're almost there. We're at number 4. And this one was easy. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love me some Atla. I went to see the movie recently. I loved it. Paramount screwed up so much. There's so much you could do with this. I'm going to start out again with the event stuff and then get into the characters. So the events for this. Start out with the airbending glider. That one's easy. That's so easy. You can do the red one, you can do the orange one, whatever. Glider wings based off of the airbending glider. A quest line across the nations. Make it a story you have to travel from Mondstadt to Fontaine to Liyue to Natlan. Air, water, earth, fire. To find the secret of the elements. Use this again to not only get these characters' perspectives on the nation of Teyvat, but learn more about why elements work the way they do. You could fill out more lore. Genshin always looks for a chance to flush out their lore. I'm giving it to you. Tell us, why did the dragons use these items, or use these elements? Why did the heavenly principles choose to stain the world these colors? Adding Appa in Genshin to have an animo animal? That'd be great. I wouldn't hate that. You could do that in a minigame. A minigame, take that one plant-themed hilichurl, make him Melon Lord. Or Sky Racing. You could include Appa and Momo in a little racing minigame. They've been implementing Sky Racing a lot in a lot of the practice events. Use that. We had a really good Sky Racing one, like 3 or 4 patches ago? I think that would be a hella fun one to do with, like, your airbending glider, and you just see, like, a couple Momos flying around. Right? One other thing before I get to the characters. 4 recipes from the 4 nations. That one's an easy one. I looked up what every character's favorite food is. Fun fact, Aang's favorite food is steamed vegetables from the Air Nation. They're vegetarians, that makes sense. Steamed vegetables from the Air Nomads. 5 flavor soup from the Water Tribe, which was made by Hana, the Puppet Master Bloodbender. She made that for Katara once. Cabbage noodles, my cabbages, from the Earth Kingdom. And flaming fire flakes from the Fire Nation. Bam. Take these, give them to characters, they have specialties. What characters did I choose? I did not choose 4 characters for the 4 nations, that would have been obvious. I started with Aang. You kind of need Aang, he's the avatar, but don't have him focus on all elements. He's an animo polearm user. That's kind of obvious. That's a given, right? His airbending staff is his weapon. He's quick, he summons small tornadoes. If you wanted to make his ult something avatar-y, again, you could do it kind of like I did earlier in the stream with Joker from Persona. Make it like Chaska, where he triggers Swirl with other people that are in his party and can activate random elements. But maybe he can only activate Hydro, Geo, Pyro. But mostly does Animo for Swirl. His passive, the entire party glides and sprints much faster. So he would be an amazing utility character. You'd always have him in your team when you're running around. Next, Also fairly obvious. Probably a fan favorite. Toph Beifong. We have small girl models. Easy, make her more like Yansan. Geocatalyst. Again, that's not shocking anyone. Her catalyst is her Space Earth bracelet. And it's just constantly like behind her, maybe like altering shape. She would be powerful. She does these powerful earth strikes, tremors, summons walls, summons hands, summons fists, shoots rocks. Pretty easy. Her passive, I didn't really know what to do either. So I went with this. This is, again, very first thought. If you can think of a better one for Toph, gets double rocks while mining. So anytime she breaks a rock, or if you send her out on expedition, she gets double mining. Great for building stuff. I think it's cool. Maybe it's like, maybe she marks every single rock on the map, but again, that would be a lot. I was trying to think of a way to like have like an enemy sense, but like for the most part, it's Genshin. You know where the enemies are. They don't change. They don't wander. I also had the idea of giving her a secondary passage. Enemies can't turn invisible around her. She can always see invisible enemies, but that's... Anyway, next. It's our boy Zuko. Hey there, Zuko here. These are my three characters, and of course Zuko is a pyro sword. Again, it makes the most sense. He uses double Dao swords. He'd use a single sword for most of it. His signature weapon would be the Dao sword he uses as the blue spirit. But during certain combos, he splits it, and if you don't have his weapon, you can use a different one, and that's fine. He's using one Dao sword and your dark iron sword, whatever. And he's doing quick ranged fire slashes. So he has these swords that are attacking close by, but periodically sends out a big wave fire slash that doesn't deal a lot of damage, just applies a mass of pyro. So he's close range when fighting, but then does a big fire slash. Passive, I don't know, he gets colder slower. I couldn't really think of a good one for him. The other one I was really thinking of originally was he and only he takes half damage from Electro. Because he can redirect lightning. That was the only dumb thought I had in my head. Now, I love these three, and I think these three would be cool. I want, like, good utility, and again, very playable. But we've kind of done this. I have these magic cards, too. I have plenty of them. I have piles of Avatar The Last Airbender. These are all just Aangs. So they're in Magic the Gathering. They're in Fortnite. You want to be different? Go with the adult versions of them from the new movie. How good does that look? Again, that's a real screenshot of what this game could be. I'll add it to the list, bro. Like, I could see this. And give us Sokka's weapon as a weapon skin for the Traveler. And bam, we can get this exact image. My other thought process was, if we do this, I would love, like, if Toph is fighting, there's a scene in this movie where she's adult Toph, where metal gauntlets and a full metal, like, kind of like crow mask comes over her head. It's like a flat steel point, and you can't see her eyes, but she's blind anyway. She doesn't need them. I thought that could be really cool if, like, when she's mid-combo, these things suddenly appear on her. Again, she would be your, like, on-field attacker. Alright. This next one... Again, I'm a huge fan of Avatar The Last Airbender. I could probably talk about this franchise for hours. This next one, I cannot say that about. Like, I enjoy Delicious in Dungeon, but I'm not an expert in it. I have never played a Fire Emblem game, so that's why I was a little lighter on this. This next series is a long-running franchise that I put this high on the list. So Avatar was number 4. I really wanted Avatar to be in the top 3, but I think this one is more likely, even if I care about it less, because I think it's actually more likely to get in the game, and it's because this team has a relationship with Hoyoverse, and it's the Fate series. I've watched a little bit of the Fate series. I watched Fate Zero, all the way to the top left, and Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. I was told I should go back and watch the original Fate Stay Night, then watch Heaven's Feel, then watch Apocrypha, then watch a different one, and then there's another one that's like Quetzalcoatl is in it, and so it's like it's characters from all across, but like Fate it's a lot, you guys. It's alternate. It's so many alternate timelines, and there are games, and I have one big problem, mainly like, hey, we have these in Honkai Star Rail. We did a collab in Honkai Star Rail with Fate. They brought over Emiya, this guy right here. They brought over Saber from here and here and here and here and here and here. All those Sabers. They brought over Rin Tosaka from here and here. Oh, sorry, this is also Emiya. And technically this is also Emiya, and this is also Emiya. But then, you're like, wait a second. Those aren't all Saber. What do you mean? These characters are all the goddamn same. Apparently, ready? 3 of those characters are the same. But it's not the 3 you're thinking of. Like, look at them. Some of them have the exact same identical hair. What do you mean? This is the Roman Emperor Nero, and this is King Arthur, and this is a weird spirit, and this is Joan of Arc. What do you mean? These are all mostly the different characters. This one has the exact same goddamn face and hair as this one, who is an evil version of this one. Apparently, it's a meme in the community called Saberface, where the author just loves drawing this face. Good for them. We know they can draw other faces. They do it all the time with all the other characters. They just really like this one design. And apparently, this is a hero from the games whose weapon is extra effective against anyone with Saberface who has the same face as her. What? I don't know if that was a joke that I read or if that's a real thing, but I don't know what to think, Fate. What are you doing? Anyway, let's talk. So I can't do Saber, who's kind of the main character of Fate. I can't do Rin, who's kind of one of the main girls, and I can't do Emiya, who's one of the main badasses. So I leaned away from the Fate Stay Night series, which is these 3 down here, and I moved a little further up to Fate Apocrypha and Fate Zero. I chose 3 characters who I know a little bit about, and these are the 3 characters I want. I want a Saber, but not any Saber. I want Joan of Arc, Gilgamesh, and Ixander, the King of Conquerors. That's not the right image. Hold on. There you go. I wanted this. So I want Joan of Arc, Gilgamesh, Archer, and Ixander, Alexander the Great, the King of Conquerors. I would have liked Saber, so we could have had the King of Knights, the King of Kings, and the King of Conquerors all together, and it could have been that cool little trifecta. But I think these 3 are cool. So how would I do them? Let's quickly run it down. Joan of Arc, or Jeanne d'Arc, right there. Pyro Polearm. Her holy flag is her weapon. It's literally a giant flag that heals people and inspires people. So when she's actively on the field, she's healing the entire party that's off field. And her passive, because she's all about inspiration, she's all about healing, I would want her to be an incredible utility support character. Any food that is eaten by the party is more effective. So like your stomach doesn't fill up as much, so you can heal sooner. Would be the thought process there. I want her to be a really good healer support. Next, my boy Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a jerk, but he's just so goddamn cool. So I chose to make him a Geocatalyst, like Ningguang, my favorite. That sounds weird, but I'm like, oh, he has unlimited weapons. He has so many cool weapons. Pick a cool weapon for him. I'm picking all of them. His catalyst is the Gate of Babylon, which he uses. It's the shimmering portals that he opens and shoots weapons out of, which is why he's technically an archer, because he's shooting weapons. So the way that'll play is he's shooting geospheres that track enemies and shred defense. So it's defense shredding, tracking geospheres. And I'm like, that just sounds rad as hell. Just make him I kind of did a defense shredding better Ningguang, but he kind of like hovers around the field in my imagination. He has a good passive. And then Iskander. He's kind of the best character in Fate Zero. He's just the most fun. Right? He's just big, he's loud, he's brash. He's the rider. So I gave him an electro sword. He summons a sword and descends in a blaze of lightning on Bucephalus and with his bull-drawn chariot. You give him the sword of Cupriotes, which is the sword he wields to lead the Ionian Tyroi, to do all that he cuts down the assassins with. When he charges towards Okeanos' waves, it's the sword he has drawn, right? Very cool. Basically, he has big charging attacks. He is made to get into the mix. When he gets knocked back, when he gets knocked down, he's meant to get up, charge, and slam, and do big, damaging electro attacks. And passive, he's a leader, a true leader. He gains power based on team comp. So I'm like, maybe the more powerful your team, the more bonuses he gets, or the more constellations your team has. That would be very whale friendly and not very free to play friendly. But like the more constellations or the higher level, the stronger he becomes. Like that could be really cool. Something crazy like that. Again, I want to go crazy. Only 2 to go. And we're on number 2. Number 2, again, I feel like this is kind of an obvious one. But I think it's probably one of the best things Genshin could do, feasibly. And it's Final Fantasy. It's obvious. Final Fantasy is doing well. Final Fantasy is doing fine. With the exception of the fact that we now know that it was a Final Fantasy IX remake being made, and it got cancelled. That's a bummer. Final Fantasy R3 Revelations comes out next year. Very excited about that. Final Fantasy Resonance comes out in October. Very excited for that. That's the return of pixel art, turn-based Final Fantasy. I'm ready, and I love Brave Exvius' story. Final Fantasy's in an okay place right now. So, what would I do for Final Fantasy? I'm going to take this a little bit slower. Let's start with all the extra stuff. Not the event, not the character. Let's talk about the extra stuff. A Moogle companion. You get a little Moogle floating beside you. That's easy. That's obvious. That's Route 1. A Chocobo wing glider. Oh, it's right there. Perfect. You glide around on Chocobos all the time. Perfect. I love Chocobos. A quest line. I went as basic as possible. Our chosen Final Fantasy character teams up with Klee, Venti, and Varka. You have a big, loud character, a tiny mage, and a flirtatious, drunken archer. Like, that is a great little party right there. That's a good little Final Fantasy starting party. You have to travel across the nations and search for the 4 elemental crystals of light. That's the quest line. It's a story like, hey, 4 crystals of light have descended. They've been taken by different people around these 4 nations. We need to find them. Because an evil can be unleashed on your world if we don't. That's it. And again, this gives us a chance to explore the world from a adventurer's perspective, less than a hero, so more of an adventurer. And that's what I wanted to get out of Final Fantasy. I'm trying to capture that spirit of Final Fantasy and be honest to Genshin, be true to Genshin. Let's move on to our other things. A giant domain. A dungeon similar to a dungeon I mentioned earlier in Baldur's Gate 3. This is more Gauntlet. We would not have 16 floors, but we would have 16 different events or fights within this domain dungeon. All of them based around the different mainline Final Fantasy games. I think that would be so cool. Like, on the first floor, you take an Abyssal Herald and give him, and as you're fighting this Herald, endlessly it's summoning in the Chichens, the little electric bats that the Fatui maid summons. And that kind of represents the bats and Garland from Final Fantasy 1. If you wanted to go Final Fantasy 5, a giant Leshy who is... Or no. A giant Leshy, which would be Exdef. She's a tree. Or you could do something like Final Fantasy 4 had Golbez, so you pick one of the Black Serpent Knights, and he summons 4 elemental monsters, maybe 4 elemental consecrated beasts, or 4 giant elemental slimes, whatever, to represent the 4 archfiends that served Golbez. It doesn't have to be that. Like, from Final Fantasy VII, I was taking something, we could do, like the fighting pit in Don Corneo's, and you're fighting in that little arena in one of the rooms of this dungeon looks like the fighting arena in the prison in Fontaine, Fortress of Meripede. And you have to fight while people are taking bets on you, and it's an endless gauntlet, and that could be the Final Fantasy VII thing. So you just make references to all games. Like, for 15, it would be... I don't know, it would be a good 15. The Adamantoise is too big, but it's definitely the most memorable. Maybe, like... First, Aranea was pretty memorable. The first fight against the Iron Golem was pretty memorable. And the Magitech army against the Gardamex of Fontaine, that could be cool. Final Fantasy 16, something against the icons, so maybe like the giant stone law churl representing Titan. So different enemies representing the different icons that you fight. Anyway, so as I've said before, as we last talked about in number 12, Monster Hunter Wilds, give and take is necessary. Which means we need to give something to Final Fantasy. Give Final Fantasy 14 some boss monsters. Final Fantasy 14 is doing awesome. They're great. Yoshi P is killing it. From everything I hear about that game, they're always crushing it. So what could we put in Final Fantasy 14? Give them some boss monsters. It don't matter. We got plenty. Take him. Take him. Oh, there you go. Take him. Take a boss or two. How cool would these guys be as raid bosses in Final Fantasy? Make Lupus a little world boss. Make the all-devouring Narwhal or Shoku Nukami big raid bosses. Done. You're welcome, Final Fantasy XIV. Now, what character in the dearth of Final Fantasy's histories and annals could I choose? It's Cloud. You know who it was going to be. You knew who it was going to be. It's Cloud. He's literally the only person it could be. Are we choosing Noctis from Final Fantasy 15? No. I love Noctis. Prompto and... No, none of them. Is it Tidus, not Titus? Or Yuna? Nope. Vaughn? the least important main character in all of Final Fantasy history? No. Is it any of the characters from the Pixel games, from the original 6? Terra could be cool. Celeste. Cecil, with his dark light paladin thing? No. Ooh, 16. Could it be Clive, Rosfield, or Dion? I wish. You know, it's gonna be from Final Fantasy VII. And it ain't gonna be Sephiroth. I was tempted to do either Tifa or Aerith. This is also me showing off all my Final Fantasy VII and just Final Fantasy crap. It could be Tifa and Aerith, but... nah. It's gotta be the most iconic, and it's gotta be the character that's gonna sell the best. So we gotta be honest to our games. Who's gonna sell the best? Who's gonna make the most money? It's Cloud Strife. He's gonna be an Electro Claymore user. That's odd. You're like, why not Animo? Why not Pyro? I went Electro. It just feels right for his character. If that makes sense. If you have a differing opinion, hit me with it. But I chose an Electro Claymore. I think it fits in very well. Obviously, his sword is going to be the Buster Sword. Done. That's easy. He has big on-field attacks. He's an on-field fighter. Big sweeping attacks, right? That leaves like trails of that. You could maybe somehow incorporate materia. Maybe do thunder and I guess an upgradable skill. Maybe like the longer you charge his skill, it has a second level and he does Thundara or Thundaga. Like that's a way you can incorporate a new idea, a new mechanic based on a existing character. His skill just continues to build even after it's full for a secondary attack. So if you are patient, you can do a second attack. His burst is Omni Slash. It's what's written on the tin, right? It's what you need to do. His passive, enemies drop more drops. It's very Final Fantasy. It's very collecting rewards, collecting loot. And it's something incredibly desirable. You're going to want him in your party if you're farming drops. I think it makes the most sense. Okay. We are just about there. Look back here. We passed my giant stack of Final Fantasy games right here. We are on top of that. With Paimon. Okay. Now, number one. This may not be what people are expecting, but I think this is the best thing Genshin could do. What is number one? What is the most desirable? What would drive the most engagement? What would make the most money for MiHoYo and from HoYoverse and this other company? What would the reception be? Would this drive players to try this game? Would this drive players to try Genshin? And finally, would it be satisfying in a lore way? For my number one pick for the best possible collaboration, it's Horizon Zero Dawn again. Let's give it another try, boys. Aloy 2.0 Redux. Give her an Omni weapon. Give her every single element. Give her a sniper road, a summonable robot pterodactyl, a full patch worth of story quest. Replace the Tsaritsa with her. Redo all her cons but make her meta. Give her new NPCs. Heck, give her a permanent house on Dragonspine. She's the only crossover character that gets to stick around permanently as part of the story. And she becomes the Traveler's best friend, and they hang out together. She has a robot raptor companion. She has one. Not you. Give us a Horizon Zero Dawn themed teapot layout, the ability to revive dead characters, a new robot, an entire new Nora themed region, an even better second signature weapon. She has 2 signature weapons. No one else has it except Venti. Hoyo pays you Primo Gems to play. Okay, you get it. I'm kidding. I'm joking. It can't be Horizon. I would love them to go back and fix Aloy. That's never going to happen. She will remain constellationless forever. So what is number one? What is it really? And again, I'm honest, there's really only one thing it feasibly could be. There's really only one thing that would check every single box, in my opinion. The game that fits best thematically with Genshin. a game that just checks every box that I want, that I think the players want, and it's The Legend of Zelda. There's really only one thing it could have been, and it's this. It's Link and Zelda. Thematically, Hyrule fits so well with to that. The combination of magic, swords and sorcery, technology, fantasy, horror, comedy, everything that Zelda does, Genshin does. Genshin takes so much of its DNA from Zelda. Zelda is iconic for a reason. Everything about half of gaming could not exist if it were not for Zelda. It has saved Nintendo, and my thought process is same with Fire Emblem, but even better. If Genshin were coming to the Switch, the best way to market that would be with a Legend of Zelda crossover, collaboration. In whatever upcoming thing, sure, we can get maybe a Wind Glider based off of the Traveler's Wind Glider in the next Legend of Zelda game. Sure. They've done Mario references, they've done other references, Samus, blah, blah, blah. So maybe we can get a Genshin sword or a Genshin Easter egg in Zelda. But putting Zelda in Genshin makes so much sense. It makes sense for Nintendo. It makes sense for MiHoYo. Zelda fans will play this game because Zelda characters are in it. And this might just expose people that have been resistant to get a Nintendo, get a Switch to play Zelda games, which you should, because Zelda is probably one of the greatest gaming franchises of all time. I didn't really know what to say or to show off, so I'm doing this bit where I just keep throwing random crap behind me based off all the franchises I'm talking about, or every game that I own. Magic the Gathering cards with Marvel on them were there the whole time. Persona, Gwent. I don't know. I just decided to throw a bunch of really cool stuff. A friend bought this for me. It's the overworld of the original Legend of Zelda and dungeons carved in beautiful wood on a Nintendo style controller. This was drawn by a friend. It's Link defeating Ganondorf with cuckoos. I don't know. And then I'm like, you know what? I could just go and get... I have hundreds of dollars worth of Zelda books. I have every strategy guide, the beautiful leather-bound strategy guides, the Creating of the Champion, the Hyrule Historia, the Art of Hyrule. I have every single one of the Himekawa mangas for Legend of Zelda. The Oracles, the Minish Cap, the Twilight Princess 8-volume saga. I have them all. I decided it'd be easier, instead of doing all that, to just put all my Wii U Zelda games right here. Then my Wii Zelda games right here. My GameCube Zelda games right here. My Nintendo Switch Zelda games right here. My DS and 3DS Zelda games right here. Oh, my exclusive 3DS XL Link Between Worlds 3DS. I'll store it over there somewhere. The rare limited edition Majora's Mask pin. I have statues up there for Majora's Mask. I have statues up there for Link, the Master Sword. I have over there, it's all in a nice display, my original gold NES cartridge for the original Nintendo, my gold Majora's Mask, my N64 Ocarina of Time, and I'm not taking all of them out. I got it all. I love this franchise. It's one of the only franchises I have tattooed on my body. Zelda makes sense. I love Zelda. If Zelda were to come to Genshin, I think of all these, and if any of these came to Genshin, I'd be happy. If any of these 19 other collaborations I've said, I'd be happy. if Zelda came to Genshin, I'd be thrilled. It's the only one that I would love. It's the only one that I'm actually hoping gets a collab. The rest of them, I'd be happy if they got a collab. It's cool, it's good for the long-term health of the game, like I said earlier. This is the only one I hope would get a collab. What would it be? No. Hold on. Fix this. Why? Working over here on my other screen. Alright. That's kind of disappointing, but it's fine. Link and Zelda. Incredibly obvious. That's what I'm going with. I went with the Hyrule Warriors designs because that's kind of the feel I want. Link has always had that adventure design, adventure by way of combat. But I wanted Zelda to have that feel too, so I went more of an armored design for her. If you want to incorporate more of her researcher side, I think that would be good. Link, Anemo sword user, give him the Master Sword. Anemo sword spin, his ult is the Master Beam. Make it like Nuvalet's beam or Sandrone's beam, but Anemo. So it's as you're pointing your sword and shooting a beam, and constantly triggering swirl as you go along. He's got 2 passives. Number 1, he's quiet. He'll be the only character in Genshin that doesn't constantly interrupt you by talking. Number 2, he has a chance of gathering extra materials. So as you're out and about, a 10% chance. Let's not blow it up. But he has a 10% chance of doubling. So anytime you pick up a mushroom, you have a 10% chance of getting 2 mushrooms. So if you're farming mats, you're going to want to use Link. Number 2, Zelda, our girl. I chose Cryo for Zelda, because Cryo in the Genshin universe is all about sealing and preserving. And that's such a big part of Zelda's character, preservation. She's a Cryo bow user with the light bow as her thing. Again, light isn't an element yet in Genshin. She would have persistent off-field healing and shielding. So she has a limited regenerative shield even while off-field because she's protective. When on-field, triggerable skills, ice, cryo. She might be, maybe can like use an ice sword as she does in times, but she has a big ice crystal burst. If you want to make it cinematic, do like the crystal from Ocarina of Time, that giant long crystal, or you could be like a crystal phantom from Spirit Tracks. From Spirit Tracks. Her passive, because Zelda is the researcher, she's knowledgeable, she's wise. She can track all regional specialties. So if you have Zelda, you don't need to switch to Odette when you're in Snezhnaya, then switch to Kale when you're in Sumeru, then switch to Fremine when you're in... Is it Fremine or Lynette? Switch to Lynette in Fontaine. You stick with Zelda because she can track regional specialties. She's the researcher, the knowledgeable one. And if you pair her, you can track regional specialties with Zelda and get extra ones with Link. So they work in conjunction. I wanted this to feel like they are worth getting, and they're worth getting together, and they're worth playing, and they're worth playing together. That's the idea. And I kind of dig it. And with the current meta, Link and Zelda would probably do really good on a stellar team. An Anemo Cryo. She's a Cryo support. He's an Anemo attacker. You do Odette, and you throw Escoffier in there. So Odette and Escoffier, or Odette and Aloy. No. Odette and Shenhe. And bam, you've triggered a Stellar Swirl team. All right. Those are the characters. That's what I think. What else would I include? A sailcloth glider from Skyward Sword. A Hylian glider from Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Those are pretty basic and kind of obvious. A fairy companion. Give us Navi. Give us Tattle and Tail. Give us Ciela. There's so many fairy companions. Every character needs a specialty. Link's honeyed apples. Zelda's creamy heart soup. And then each of them would have 2 large multi-part quests. You would have a quest with Link and a quest with Zelda in conjunction. They're in parallel. As Link, you have to team up with Link, search through open fields and domains to find and protect Princess Zelda from monsters who are hunting her. So that is a several-part quest. Getting to the fight, like tracking her down, then getting there and getting through the domain, and then fighting monsters. Zelda, on the other hand, you need to team up with Zelda to dive into a puzzle-heavy domain and reinforce the seal of an ancient evil. That's why they are here in this world of Teyvat. They are sealing a monster. You could tease something more with it. You could tease future events. You could tease something dark and evil and multiversal. There's some cool, crazy stuff with in Echoes of Wisdom with Null and beings that like transcend realities, like world eaters. There's some crazy stuff there. I think this is the best possible solution for this collaboration question I've raised. Sailcloth. Hylian glider. Oh, hey, listen. Oh, honeyed apples. Oh my god, hearty soup. You get the idea. This is what I came up with. So this is a review of, I think, worthwhile. Are these my favorite? No. Are these your favorites? Probably not. Do all of these deserve it? Kind of. Will they be good? Maybe. I think these are worthwhile collabs. I think these are things that would benefit them and benefit Genshin, is why these are here. If you guys disagree, I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm going to post this entire VOD on YouTube and actually push it there. I really like to know, what do you guys think? What collabs would you want? Which of these collabs do you think are bad ideas? If you had a different idea from one of these collabs, what would it be? Would you pick a different Fire Emblem character? Would you put Millennia Blade of Mikola from Elden Ring? I couldn't... No, I could not have done less. I had to do more. Next time I'm going to do the top 50 collabs. Next time I'm going to do 100. It's going to be an 8-hour stream where all I do is yap. I think it's a solid thing. What do you think, bud? Like, what would you like? I know you said Naruto, right? What else would you have liked? I think this is a fairly solid list for things that would be beneficial. In conclusion, Genshin is in a great place. I'm not complaining. Genshin, there's no need to rock the boat. I still think looking for collaborations, looking to our contemporaries, Honkai Wuwa, is beneficial. Taking a long-term or Saritsa-like approach to our favorite money sink. Collabs could be beneficial in bringing in new fans, but we don't want to alienate old fans. It has to be tasteful, fun, and you have to show restraint. You can't do a lot. Collabs are not necessary. Collabs are not necessary. They're great, but they're still fun to think about, and who doesn't like smashing their toys together? Thank you. Oh no, I don't think all of this should be added as well. I think any one of those could be cool. I started at the top of this. Go back and watch the VOD, my friend. I started at the very beginning of this entire 3-hour-long video saying these should not all be added. I am not advocating for that. I do not want this to become Fortnite. I do not want this to become Magic the Gathering. I play Magic the Gathering. I play Fortnite. I have those games when I want to smash all my toys together. This is saying, can Genshin redeem what happened with Aloy? Can it be done in a tasteful, good way that would benefit their companies and Toyoverse? And then which collabs do I think would be beneficial for those reasons? It's the company's choice. Maybe 2 or 3 collabs would be perfect. I'm okay with that. Honkai only has 1. It's had 2 waves of Fate. Wuwa's had Cyberpunk. Again, I think it just opens the door to a lot of potential. If that makes sense. Yeah, I know it's not our decision. It's all theirs. And they have the power. But it doesn't mean I'll say no if I see something cool pop up. Right? And I want it to be done well. Cool. Cool. Well, this was fun. I am going to do some gaming now. But I liked getting through this, and I liked getting to yap. You know how I love to yap. And this was a lot of fun for me. Alright, give me 1 sec. I'm going to take a quick bio break. I'll be right back.